Father, thank you that we can go to your word again, and that's where we find truth. Father, that culture is to be conforming itself to what your word says, not the other way around. And we recognize that even in a lot of churches in the United States, that it is going that other direction. They're trying to conform what your word says to the culture they want it to be. Yet, Father, historically, we see that's been true for a long, long time. Father, we desire to know what you say and follow it, to draw the lines where you draw them and nowhere else. In Jesus' name. Amen. All right, tonight, alcohol, drugs, and then the second topic will be gambling. So, I guess I think you guys have also seen all the other stuff I did on this over the years, because we've dealt with this before, so I don't know if we're going to spend a lot of time on this.
Yeah, I think we touched on it some in the...
Yeah, some of the questions even sounded, one question sounded familiar.
Yeah, well...
You know, we did it in the leisure, didn't we do it leisure and entertainment?
Yeah, probably, yeah, that's probably what we've...
Yeah.
Well, and we've also talked about it a lot over the years,
Yeah.
too, in different subjects, because it just keeps popping up, so... just run through the questions. I got lots of stuff here. So, why is it common to find strong statements in American conservative evangelical churches that restrict consumption of alcohol except for medicinal use? So that's history. Because you understand, this is not true around the world. It isn't true in certain segments of Christianity where it becomes very much can't have any alcohol except for medicinal use. And that's been true here in the United States, especially in the Northeast. So, I think I had said something about that in history.
I mean, I wrote down poor hermeneutics and just tradition of men. And you see this a lot in Baptist circles. I mean, you know, they'll go through these really crazy gyrations to just like say, no, that wasn't alcohol. You know, like Jesus didn't make, you know, wine with alcohol in it, you know.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting.
It's the easiest thing to do. It reminds me of the Pharisees, what they did with the Sabbath. They knew what their exile was because they didn't, or a big reason was the Sabbath. So they created all these rules and added to God's word, so to try to make sure they don't break the Sabbath. I think it's the easiest. We have all these warnings about it. The easiest thing to do is just stay away from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a couple of things going on. One, historically, the temperance movement was very strong in the Northeast. That's one reason why it was strong here in the churches in the Northeast, and then of course it spread across the country enough to even put in the amendment on eliminating alcoholic beverages, except under certain conditions. So that became part of the culture that was in the church, and then as part of that you had people reacting strongly to, they could see the damage. Yes, now you got the pragmatic
So it can't be
aspect
good.
of, well, we're going to draw the line way over here so you're not even close to the
Right.
edge, because we don't want people going that way. And a lot of those that I find strongest on this issue are those who've either come out of it themselves or they were raised in a home where alcoholism destroyed the home. And so they just want to be very, very strong. But as wise as that can be in one way, because I'm a teetotaler, I mean, it's a pragmatic aspect too. I think the stuff stinks. You take really good grape juice and you let it rot, and then you think it's better. I don't think so. Give it to me sweet.
Well, that I would have
too.
fallen into that because it was destructive in my life, you know. So, but I wish it did say that, but it doesn't say that because it would make it a lot easier. But it just simply doesn't say it. No matter how you look at it.
So even from a very pragmatic standpoint, it's going to be is that for some people, like many things, is they just can't handle it. So just stay completely away from it. It's poison to them. But I need to have that on the record. I am a teetotaler. I don't drink. I don't like it. I don't like the effects of anything else, and that's my avocation to people is, why would you want to? So I usually try and figure out some reason, but I'm not. What are the nuances of difference in the following lists of Hebrew Greek words for wine and drink, which would have a greater or lesser alcohol content? And I don't recall if I actually had given you the sheet with all that.
No,
I got it from
but it was
the
in the sermon.
Yeah, I just got it from the sermon.
Yeah, here it is, one. 2, 3, 4 pages that I did just, okay, what are the words?
Yeah, you went to,
Messages.
you had them in your sermon.
Okay.
That's why I got.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah.
All
I
right,
just
look,
did the copy and paste.
because most of what I said, it's interesting, there's so many different words.
It
Different
is.
nuances. Okay, so wine, yayin in Hebrew, oinos in Greek.
That's the one that's naturally processed. It is fermented grape juice.
Okay,
This would be just
Right.
like juice that's left out in that climate. And it
okay,
would-
Yeah,
it's fermented.
Right.
Yeah.
Fermented juice. How about Tarash?
The new wine.
Okay,
That's
new, fresh.
is that the one? Now I forgot. Is that
Dresh,
the one?
isn't that the bottom? The stuff, the particles on
the
the bottom?
dregs? But
Or
that's not.
okay, that's the wrong one.
That's
right?
Shamir.
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 What's the other one?
Kemmer.
Kemmer?
Yeah, kind of
Is that how
hard.
pronounced?
Actually, more like, you know, got
I missed
Oh
one.
no, that's the next one. But there's one.
Kamar.
There's the fifth one is the dregs.
Dregs is the one before mixed
Shh.
wines, right? No.
It's right after the grain, the fermented
That's
grain.
Shemer.
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about.
Yeah, that sounds a little farther.
No, the new
That's
wine
neat.
is it starts out with a low alcohol content, but because it's from the best parts, it could end up being the strongest wine.
Would it be the one that has the most sugar content to start with? Is that what it would be? Like, does
Yeah.
that make it more?
Yeah, it's going to be. It's actually usually associated with the fresh harvest. That's why you
Okay.
said fresh wine,
Right.
Yeah.
new wine, fresh, associated with the harvest. Like Micah 6:15 seemed to indicate the grape juice before it becomes wine, or
I like grape juice.
it would be used in offering to God. It's part of the first fruits and stuff. So that'd be new wine. All right, C Hebrew kemer.
You got the bubbles, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's actually talking about the bubbles within it, the
Yeah.
fermentation.
So that would be bubbles in the sense of on top of, like, you know, something's
Bubbles.
fermenting and it's those bubbles on top?
Mhm.
Okay.
Emphasis is on the process still.
Yeah,
At that point.
it is fermenting at the.
Okay.
So you can see it's not
So that's the
fresh,
releasing of the
and it's not done.
Yeah.
It's going there. Okay, sweet wine. Asis in Hebrew, glucose.
Glucose.
Which
It's
we
still
get.
sweet.
It's still sweet. So
Still in process.
it's
But
the
not so-
emphasis on that it is sweet.
And it's not fully broken down yet, so you'd have to drink
Yeah.
probably a lot.
Also could be translated like nectar, sweet juice, the express juice of fruit, especially grapes.
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
this could be, they could be making things, is it always made out of grapes too? They could be
No,
making,
fruit juice.
yeah, any kind of, yeah.
Grapes most common.
Yeah.
In fact, are some words that are specifically that it's not grapes. Okay, you already talked about shemer, or shemer. Okay, the dregs, that's the bottom stuff on it.
So like the particles.
Shakar and sakara.
Those are fermented. Those are made from grain.
Yeah, so it's often translated as strong drink, but it's something from a grain.
That include beer. That would include beer.
Well,
Would
beer
it?
would fit within it.
Yeah, but it's not.
But they
it's
did.
not like distilled.
It's not
No,
distilled.
it's not. All right.
So how would they process it? So this would most likely, this is not liquor because there's no evidence of
No.
any kind of distilling process.
So it would be like beer. It would be, or anything that's not
So-
a fruit. It's like a grain.
Yeah, like barley beer,
Yeah.
any alcoholic beverage prepared from either grain or fruit. In all but 2 of the 23 used in the Old Testament, it appears in connection with yayin, usually following it. So you have yayin, so one is fruit and usually grape, and the other one is this strong drink, meaning it's fermented from a grain.
Okay.
Because you take a grain and you let it, put water in and let it just sit there, it's going to get strong.
Now, is it strong in alcohol content or strong in taste?
Well, probably both. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
not touching it. But I know that you see these movies of guys who are in captivity or something, like World War two movies where they're in a POW camp, and they're taking whatever they're getting and they're trying to make hooch or something, you know.
MASH.
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 So
No, not
so
MASH,
what
the
is
stuff
ma-
MASH,
so
but
they're-
MASH the TV.
Well, mash the TV.
They were always
right,
making
exactly.
some concoction. They had a still.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they were actually trying to distill it. So they could take potatoes, they take anything that's got sugar in it,
Yeah.
or can break down. A carbohydrate can break down, and then it will ferment. Hence, you eventually get alcohol out of it. That's what they're after. So, strong drink.
Sugar
often
cane.
there.
Sugar cane in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, they sugar cane.
My uncles would make it.
So, you get all sorts of things. And there's a bunch of other ones. There's words for the wine press. There's a word for someone who is drunken. There's words for grape, unripe grapes, sour grapes, grape gathering, Mishra, juice is blood of grapes, Genesis 49:11. There's sour wine. So there's a lot of words that are used, and I think it's helpful if we actually look at the words that are used and start recognizing there's a lot of nuances in these verses. It may say wine, but what does it mean by that? What kind of wine? Gives you a little more understanding of what's going on. All right. I think I had this in one of my sermons. In earning my bachelor's in
Yeah, you did.
science,
I had never
one
heard
of the
this
classes
before.
I had to take was viticulture. And that included not only how to grow the grapes and keep the pests and stuff off it, because my degree's in pest management, but it included trips to the wineries. So the fermentation process and all that. So it is interesting when you start looking at alcohol contents of different kinds of fermented beverages. Okay, if it ferments naturally, what's the range?
4 to 12%.
Yeah. Okay, if you're going to get that 12% though, you have to be very careful keeping the temperature right, and it's not easy to get there. Okay, you have to be very careful. Champagne actually go from 11 to 14. Okay, but they're very careful in how they're doing that. But that's a natural fermentation. So that'd be fermented in controlled conditions. You can get a little higher, which champagne can be. Okay, you have to be very careful to get those higher ranges. Most beers even beers can be around 6.
6, I think, right?
Otherwise, they have to.
It's high, I think.
Yeah, I think it's 6.
I think the average is like 4.5. I looked it
Yeah,
up.
maybe it's 4.
Maybe
Wines.
6, like the
Lagers.
other kind of beers,
Lager.
the malt liquors and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, they probably get up to 6
If you're
or 8.
looking at wines, there can be a wide range because it depends where
Up to
it was
20.
where were you in the fermentation process and what did you do with it.
2 to 12% on beer, typically 4 to
Yeah.
6.
What about distilled?
Oh, that goes
35 to 80%?
80%.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's not
So-
proof, that's percent.
Well,
Yeah,
proof
so it's
is
a
just
100
double the percentage.
Yeah.
Double the percentage, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you had 180, so was it really 90 or was that a typo?
It'd be 90%.
Yeah,
okay.
You get up
I
to
think
180.
rum, some of the rums go to 180. Do they go?
And
Yeah.
vodkas.
Yeah.
Vodkas go to 180 too?
You can just keep, because it's just how much you distill it.
Yeah, I know, that's...
Vodka
Drink
here,
that
it says
stuff.
Vodka,
35 to 50%, usually 40.
Vodka?
Vodka, yeah.
So that's like 70 proof.
okay, you
Yeah.
get the whiskeys.
No,
Way up.
vodka 35 to 50%. So it can
So
get to
You get
100%.
to 100%.
Usually
just pure
40%, they
alcohol.
said. Yeah, that's crazy.
It'll be 100
I
proof.
forget this, what it was, there was
So,
something.
of course,
like
you
that.
can just keep distilling it until it's just 100%.
What was it?
Oh, it's
But that's no longer sold as liquor.
No, that's like,
That's illegal. That's...
like
That's what they add to
that's an
things to
accelerant.
enhance it. So.
Yeah.
So, but the reason I asked this question here is to understand that when you're going back into biblical times, they didn't distill.
they didn't, this didn't exist.
So when people want to say liquors, you're not talking about liquors in the Old Testament.
So
Strong drink is not a liquor.
Their alcohol contents were substantially lower than what...
Much lower.
They didn't have the technology to get,
And they wouldn't be able to keep the conditions controlled so much to get those higher ranges. So they're going to be much lower in range, but you drink enough of it and you're still going to get drunk. Hence people would, and hence some of the things that not long by the wine, not sitting long by the wine. What is that? Because it means you're just drinking. So it's not like...
But you know, you hear often, well, this stuff didn't have alcohol in it. You know, they're not talking
Well,
about
it
it, but
did, it had to.
it did.
Otherwise, why would they, scripture talk about getting
Yeah,
intoxicated?
yeah, exactly.
Well, and all the many different kinds of words that are used. So you have to look at that. You have to go to the context. What does it actually say? Okay, what causes fruit juice or grain broth to ferment?
I like the end of this. I never heard the end of it, like what it actually is.
When it ferments?
No.
Or what it is?
What actually, what it yields, you know, it's the waste.
It is the
gas.
waste.
It's the
It's
waste.
the waste.
It's yeast.
Yeah, but I never heard that part, that it's the waste.
It is the waste. Yes, you could put it this way. Yeah, the alcohol is the yeast pea.
Yeah. So when I read that, I was like, I knew it was from breaking it down, but I never heard that part, or don't remember it, or whatever.
Okay, if other things could get it, it starts breaking down farther, so you get vinegars.
That reminds me, let me turn this off.
Yeah, just turn it
Okay, so you're just watching the chemical breakdown. It's different. Life forms will try and get what they can out of it to feed on it, and then here's the byproduct. So it's yeast. Yeast causes the fermentation. How can the fermentation process be slowed down or stopped? And could that be done in ancient times?
Refrigeration?
Refrigeration.
Yeah,
Not
refrigeration
likely
will
back
slow it
then.
down.
They'd have to climb a real high mountain.
Yeah.
Could you stop it? How do we stop it now?
Cook.
We
Yeah,
cook
cook
it, we
it.
pasteurize it, okay? And Dr. Welch did that.
Yeah.
Hence we have Welch's grape juice.
So you're basically just cooking the sugar out of it. Well, not cooking the sugar, it's
You're
just...
killing all the yeast,
You're killing all the yeast. Yeah.
okay? And so Louis Pasteur figured that out. You know, why did he boil the broth?
Yeah.
It's to kill everything in it.
In it, yeah.
Then he had his funnel thing, no air could get in, so no
Yeah,
bacteria
you
or
think
yeast
of
could
yeast,
get in.
you're always adding
and so
yeast or
didn't-
something,
It
I
didn't
don't know
go
what I
bad.
was thinking. I'm thinking you're adding the yeast, like pizza.
Well, a lot of times they do.
Yeah.
They will add it in
Okay.
order to get the right yeast to get the kind of thing that whatever they want. You know, like they'll do that same thing for cheese.
Yeah.
They add in the particular thing that they want in order to get a particular flavor.
So
they
the
can do
particular, they're looking for the yeast with a particular pea, so it has a
That's
particular
right. They want a
taste.
particular breakdown to it.
Yeah, that's, yeah, I guess.
Oh,
Put it that
boy.
way.
So, but since they
still
didn't
like cheese, though.
pasteurize, even if they boiled it, if they didn't have a way to seal it, what happens? You ever leave grape juice in your refrigerator and got in the back, you forgot about it?
I had other juices that it was it exploded or some plastic. Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute, what happened? It wasn't. It wasn't
wasn't
fermented when you put it in there,
No,
Yeah.
it fermented in.
and it was in the refrigerator.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it still would explode.
Yes.
Okay, because yeast spores are all over the place. They're
Yeah.
floating around. So
Yeah.
if you have it out, all it takes is a couple spores and it'll start multiplying.
Yeah.
So adding yeast will just make it work a lot
Accelerate the
faster.
process,
Otherwise,
yeah.
it is going to eventually. You know, even here, there was times like, okay, the
Yeah.
grape
no.
juice was in there, and uh-oh, it's been sitting there for a month or more.
We taste it now
And then it's like,
before
okay,
we start
It's got a
doing the
little
things.
thing.
it's got a sting to it. It's like, okay, you know, some people figure out what that is, and others are like, we're only giving you a little bit. It's okay.
Yeah, don't worry about
So,
it.
how are you, Jason?
Good.
So, we're up to question 6. We've already gone through different words for fermented juices. Okay, I don't know if you were able to get any of that.
The number 2, you mean?
Well, just, I don't know if you were able to find, so I'll give you some extra stuff. Here's a word study online,
Okay,
all the
cool.
different words on it. So that's a little fun. Kind of, what was the history? That was question 1. Why did we end up with the kind of reactions that have become in our society? Because you need to understand that it's a big deal in American conservative churches. It's not so much in other countries. There's an old joke about a Dutch Christian who came over the United States, and he was telling his friends when he got back to Holland, and he was crying about it. He was so concerned about what it was like over here, and especially the women. They had also his makeup on, and the tears were rolling down his face, and then running along his cigar and dropping into his beer. It's like, so there's a lot of cultural things that get transferred in, and we think that's Christianity, and no, and that was question one. What's the history of that? Two is there's a lot of different words used for wines, different kinds of wines, different stages of fermentation, and including fermented drinks from grain or other fruits, which often is usually translated strong drink in there. Talk about percentages that are in different fermented drinks, naturally occurring drinks. Up to 12%, maybe. Usually it's more like 6 to 8.
Yeah.
If you get control conditions, there are some champagnes that can go to 14, and some claims even much higher than that, but that's very controlled conditions. Regular fermentation. Distilled, it just depends how much you distill it.
Yeah.
The more you distill it, the more the alcohol content.
Yeah, you can pretty much kill somebody.
Yeah, you definitely can. And what causes fruit juice or grains to ferment? It's yeast.
Yep.
And we were just talking about that with the communion Welch's grape juice in the fridge that didn't get all used up, sat in the fridge,
Oh, it ended up fermenting?
and the next month we used it. It was like, kind of a tangy
Yeah.
grape juice here. So it was fermenting because yeast is in the air. It took a little bit of yeast to get it in the bottle, and it's going to start fermenting even in the refrigerator. So we talked about how to slow it down or stop it. Stop it, you have to pasteurize it. And
Like boiling it, you mean?
you got to boil it and seal it.
Got it.
Okay?
Some-
Because if you don't seal it,
Yeah, the air is gonna...
you're still going to contaminate it again,
Yeah.
and the yeast is going to get in, and it's going to just start all over again. Which is why I said, like Welch's grape juice, that's pasteurized, so you figure out a way to do this. Even if you take mash, like you boil the grape juice down so you have like a thick paste or something. Okay, it's still going to ferment a little bit, simply because yeast is on it.
It's going to get reintroduced.
Okay, and if you mix it and reconstitute it, and it sits, it's still going to. So,
I actually found something that said people that make their own wines, they use potassium sorbate. It supposedly sterilizes the yeast, so that after you do what you say,
It stops it.
it'll keep it. Yeah, it'll keep it from
yeah, you have to have something to keep the yeast from
Yeah,
growing.
they put that in a lot of food, potassium.
Yeah,
Yeah. So they.
so great, what does it do?
So that basically, they get it to the point they want it, then they introduce that.
That's
right?
correct. Like you
Yeah.
can't. That's not going to stop the yeast from fermenting. You have to wait until the fermentation is
Yeah.
done, and then
Yeah.
you would
Yeah.
introduce it.
So there are ways to stop it, but you've got to add something to kill off the yeast.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, what's the connection between wine and God's blessing in the scriptures? Should be quite a few scriptures on that.
Yeah, I came up with Judges 9:19. He created wine for cheer. Psalms 104:15. It makes a man's heart glad.
Okay. Okay, interesting on that one. I like that verse because the particular word for wine there,
Is what?
fresh wine. It's sweet.
Oh yeah. Good.
You're much happier if it's sweet. Rather than
Of
heavy,
course.
right?
Yeah, I think that's the reason.
But that's my preference.
I looked in Joel about God's promise of deliverance. He said, "Then the Lord will be zealous for his land, and he will have pity on his people, and the Lord will answer and say to his people, Behold, I am going to send you grain, new wine, and oil," probably same word,
Yeah.
"and you will be satisfied and full with them. And I will never again make you a reproach among the nations."
Could anybody get Jeremiah 48?
No.
Jeremiah 48:32. More than weeping for Jazer, shall weep for you, O vine of Sibmah. Your tendrils stretch across the sea, they reach the sea of Jazer. Upon your summer fruits and your grape harvest, the destroyer has fallen. So gladness and joy are taken away from the fruitful field, even from the land of Moab. And I made the wine to cease from the wine presses, no one will tread them with shouting. The shouting will not be shouts of joy. So when there's a condemnation,
Yeah.
it includes is you don't have this.
Right.
Yeah, that was one of the other.
What
Yeah,
a-
that was, yeah. one of the
Chronicles,
relations.
difference, like Chronicles, it talks about, 1 Chronicles 12, reign of David. Moreover, there were those who were near them, even as far as Issachar and Zebulun and Naphtali, brought food on donkeys, camels, mules, and on oxen, great quantities of flour, figs, cakes, and bunches of raisins, wine, oil, oxen, sheep, and there was joy indeed in Israel. Wine's part of the celebration.
See, what I kind of struggle with here is why not just drink grape juice? Like, why do you have to introduce the alcoholic element to it?
We don't have to introduce it, that's the problem. You don't have to introduce it. Because I'm trying to take you back. You're in ancient Israel. How do you not have it? How do you keep the yeast from getting in it?
Oh, so you're claiming now we have a lot more. It's a lot easier for us to control the.
They could
It
help
is.
Yeah.
And so your question's legitimate for our time.
Oh, plus they didn't have refrigeration back then.
Yeah,
right?
Right.
there you go.
That's probably the biggest thing.
So they had to figure out ways to try and keep it down. So you're going to find mixed wines, diluting it. But I'm trying to point here that when you see in Scripture, wine is not seen as something negative. It's seen as a positive of, this is God's blessing.
Hmm.
It has a flip side, but it's definitely, there's a blessing too.
Zechariah 10:7. Ephraim will be like a mighty man, and their heart will be glad as if from wine.
That's not grape juice.
No.
Indeed, their children will see it and be glad, their heart will rejoice in the Lord. Okay, here's an interesting one. Deuteronomy chapter 14. Anybody find that one? Okay,
Deuteronomy what?
this- Deuteronomy 14.
Well, I just pulled up a bunch. Deuteronomy 14:23.
22 and on. I'm taking 22 because this is the tithe. What can they do with the tithe?
Yeah, they
Okay.
could buy, yeah.
You shall surely tithe all the produce of what you sow, which comes out of the field every year. You shall eat in the presence of the Lord your God at the place he chooses to establish his name, the tithe of your grain, your new wine, your oil, the firstborn of your herd, your flock, in order that you may learn and fear the Lord your God always. And if the distance is so great for you that you are not able to bring the tithe, since the place where the Lord your God chooses to set his name is too far away from you when the Lord God blesses you, then you shall exchange the money and bind the money in your hand and go to the place where the Lord your God chooses. And you may spend the money for whatever your heart desires. Now notice what's here. For oxen, for sheep, or wine, or strong drink, whatever your heart desires, and there you shall eat in the presence of the Lord your God and rejoice, you and your household. You shall not neglect the Levite who is in your town, for he has no portion of inheritance from you. So that was part of the celebration. And notice that it included, if you were bringing it, you'd bring new wine. But if you were buying something, you'd be buying not necessarily new wine.
Right.
It could also be
It's
strong
aged
drink.
wine.
Strong drink.
Wow.
It's going to be,
By the time you get to the
There.
place of
It'll
the
be
feast, it'll be
fermented.
aged.
well, yeah.
It's gonna be something else than what it was.
So you gotta get it, otherwise
You
it'll
gotta get it fast.
Gotta get it fresh.
So what are we talking about when they say strong drink? You're talking about the 12% or
No,
9 or
strong,
12?
that's how we think. We think strong drink that way. What they mean by that,
just aged.
it's, no, it comes from grains.
Oh, so that would be like
That was their strong drink.
whiskey.
No.
No,
That's the
that's
stove.
more like beer, barley beer.
Oh.
So you get a mash
Oh,
and you let
okay.
it ferment,
All right.
okay? So actually it's referring more to the origin of it. So they still don't have anything strong.
Yeah.
And I think that's important to point
Strong
out,
in
too,
comparison to
to
wine.
what we,
Yeah,
Yes,
but
that
not
we do
strong
now.
like we think of it now.
we think strong drink, we think in whiskey and.
Yeah,
well,
you-
because thinking liquor.
I'm thinking liquor.
Because the New King James says similar drink. It doesn't say
Yeah.
strong drink because I feel like
Yeah.
that's different than wine. Strong drink.
Yeah,
It is.
Wine is usually it's from grapes. It could be from something else.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fruit.
Mm-hmm.
strong drink, that particular word there is going to come from something that was, usually it's a grain of some sort, or it
Gotcha.
could be certain fruits.
I got it.
But that's its origin. So the origin was what they're talking about.
Okay.
So sometimes we had to get past the reading into it what we think of it. So strong drink isn't liquor. There were no liquors. They didn't have liquor.
Right, they didn't have
They
the
didn't distill.
distillation process yet.
Okay. Their ability to control the fermentation itself. So they did, even there they didn't have the higher concentration of alcohol in their drinks. So it was naturally fermented, whatever they could do. And I'm sure some of them probably figured out how to increase it a little bit, but you're still limited compared to what we have now. So it's trying to get back, what was it like then? Now, this particular question was just saying is that when you start looking through Scripture, you see wine is associated with blessing, and not having wine is associated with cursing.
Judgment.
That's judgment.
It's judgment,
Yeah.
okay? That's really the point.
And a part of that would probably be because it is a necessity. It would have been a necessity to a certain degree in their culture. In ours, it is not.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So we want to be careful both ways. We don't
Yeah.
want to take what they have and read into our culture. We don't take our culture and read
Exactly.
into theirs. We need to understand theirs.
Yeah.
And then we need to be, that's why a lot of the other questions are here, we need to understand our own culture, what are the ramifications of it?
So where do we fall on the concept of them using it to purify their water? Because I've heard that.
That's used a lot. How much do you have in it before you can actually purify the water? How much alcohol needs to be in it before it actually kills off whatever it is you're concerned
I
about?
feel like it wouldn't be water at that point. It would be
liquor.
mixed. It would be
Probably-
mixed wine.
Probably mixed wine. So no,
Be
it
mixed
wasn't
wine.
necessarily purifying. It had a lot more to do with trying to dilute it so you could drink more, and it had a
Not be
flavor,
drunk, yeah.
and it wasn't there. So there's a lot of things they could do. They could make, I'm sure they could boil things down so it's more concentrated and try and reduce the amount. But you're just looking through what it says, and wine is associated with joy, blessing. Not having is God's cursing you. And it's the normal word for wine, or the other words that come in it. The strong drink, the barley beer, we'll just throw that one out as a quote-unquote strong drink. It's not strong drink, it's not a liquor, but it is a grain-based fermented beverage. We'll put it that way. Okay, because that's what the words are. So, how about connections made between wine and worship of God?
There's a lot of
Yeah.
verses.
Libation offerings.
Yep. That's what.
Okay, what were they offering?
They're offering wine.
They're offering wine.
Yeah, and every form of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
New wine can be in that, aged wine, all of it, the different kinds of wines are part of it.
Yeah, and not just one or two places.
Yeah.
Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers,
Yep.
there's verses.
Bunch of numbers.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we
They
understand.
use wine for the Lord's Supper.
Mhm. That's what we had on the table.
Yeah.
That was the normal word for
Let's look at this one. And for the drink offering, you shall offer 1/3 of a hin of wine as a soothing aroma to the Lord.
Yep.
Just like the,
Mhm.
you know,
It's libation offering.
just the lambs or whatever. You know,
As
it
a
was
clean animal,
soothing
whatever you
animal.
have to.
It
Same.
was a soothing aroma to the Lord.
So 8, we already answered that question. Would the absence of wine indicate?
Judgment.
It's a judgment.
Okay. So you have to start with what does the Scripture actually say about whatever subject. Now in this one we had to say, what does the Scripture actually say? Okay? I mean, we could get into other things. Here's one, all of what Jesus said about wine. Oh, here's an interesting one. Isaiah 25:6. Okay, this is the banquet the Lord's going to prepare in the kingdom in the millennium. Okay.
Maybe wine is up there.
Well, it says,
And you won't
the
get
Lord of
drunk either."
hosts will prepare a lavish banquet for all the peoples on this mountain. A banquet of aged wine, choice pieces with marrow,
That's
refined
fermented
aged wine, And on this mountain he will swallow up the covering which is over all the peoples, even the veil which is stretched over all the nations. He has swallowed up death for all time. The Lord will wipe tears away from all faces, remove the reproach of his people from all the earth. The Lord has spoken. He has said, behold, this is our God, of whom we've waited, he might save us. This is the Lord from whom we've waited. Let us rejoice and be glad in his salvation. So part of the celebration, it's aged wine. So you're going to have a hard time getting around that one and saying it's grape juice. It's aged. And there's a reason they put it in there. So that's to try and deal with what ends up happening when people want to read into the scriptures. There was a paper written by Samuel Bacchiocchi, PhD at Andrews University, the Seventh-day Adventist. I didn't read the whole thing. I brought this just to read my introduction to it, because this study is an example of a topical study done to prove the author's premise despite the actual facts in both the scriptures and the science. Therefore, an example of the dangers of eisegesis, this reading into the text, in topical studies. His presentation is very logical unless you've already done your own word study, would seem definitive on the issue. But of course, if you have done your own word study, you realize he's not telling you everything. Carefully examine the passage in which he suggests the possibility of his premise, then ends up concluding that it must be. And also the passages he does not cite that would be contrary to his premise. In this case, Deuteronomy 24:14-27, or 1 Timothy 3:8, where deacons can have more wine than elders. You don't cite those things, you leave them out of your study. His quest to prove that non-alcoholic wine was common and preferred falls short of reality and ability to keep wine from fermenting. Yeast spores are common in the environment, both field and the houses, and once contaminated, it only requires moisture and low enough sugar concentrations for fermentation to take place. Concentrating juice into paste, increasing the sugar concentration of jams and jellies, dehydrating, as in raisins. Storage in dry environments at cooler temperatures will help, and pasteurization will prevent, unless the juice is exposed to yeast afterward. Prior to modern pasteurization and refrigeration, keeping fermentation from happening and progressing was extremely difficult. Hence, the many words used to describe grape juice in different states. It is his conclusion that is most disturbing as he projects his personal convictions, which he's free to have, to be the biblical mandate. The warning of 1 Timothy 4:1-4 seems fitting. And that's the one about restricting people from eating things, because where does that come from? Thou shalt not eat these things. Okay, that's the doctrine of demons. And we know a major quote-unquote Christian group that does that. Thou shalt not eat this, and you shall not eat that, especially on Fridays.
Especially during certain times of the year.
What we just
We
began
are in that time.
We are just
Yeah, we
beginning
just
that.
began,
You can't do
yes.
that. You can't do that.
I
So
think I saw it on the calendar somewhere.
Yeah.
I didn't
now
see
the time to
any
go to
dirt on their face.
steakhouses.
There was a priest at one of the train stations.
Doing it, yeah.
At the train station.
Yeah.
I told Melanie next year they're going to have it on Amazon. And they'll have it blessed. You put it on yourself and order it. Time for lunch.
It might be.
I have a
So
drone come
right
through.
now, Fridays are a good time to go to steakhouses locally. They will be not crowded,
Yes.
unless of course they're serving fish too.
Yeah, I wonder if
Stay away from the fish houses.
you just
It's
wonder if
crowded.
anyone even does that stuff anymore.
There's a lot of people still follow tradition.
I went to.
Well, the people that are diehard Catholics
Yes,
are
they
going
are.
to abide by it, right?
Yeah, but you could get exemptions. I went to a retirement party about 15 years ago.
You gotta pay, right?
I don't know what they did, but there was a retirement party on a Friday during Lent, and they were serving prime rib. And a guy actually came up, we have a special dispensation, whatever the bishop or archbishop
From the Pope?
of that area. It wasn't the Pope, it was like an archbishop, somebody with some clout.
Gave him a check.
And then everyone was like, hooray, hooray. Like, so you could get dispensations.
Interesting.
Yes.
After you write a check, I'm sure.
We hadn't thought about that, but we've been here for quite a while. The area is largely Catholic, or mostly cultural Catholic. I'm not sure what the percentages are now. It's 60% up in our area. And we're like, there's nobody here in the steakhouse. Where's everybody?
I didn't see anybody with ashes on their face. Oh wait,
I
I
did.
worked from home yesterday.
That's why you didn't see anybody.
Oh boy.
Well, if you did yesterday, we have another talk.
I work at a train station, and I wasn't looking hard, but I didn't see one person.
Yeah.
I saw several people. And I was at a
I
hospital.
didn't leave the house
That's fine.
yesterday actually.
So that becomes a problem, and you have people doing this. That's one part of the problem. We can't read into Scripture what's not there.
Yeah.
We don't want to culturalize the text. At the same time, we do want to be sensitive to our culture. And even where we have freedom, we may want to restrict that freedom in light of our culture. So you have both. And that's where some of these other questions are dealing with. This is personally an issue that's important to me because I've taken a lot of beatings on this. We had a faction at the church 22 years ago now over this. And it's like, I have to preach what the Scriptures say. I don't have a choice and not be true to God. I have to say, here's what Scripture says. I can't put a rule in that he doesn't have and say it's from him. I can put a rule in on for myself and say I don't want to go there. But that doesn't say that's not what God says. I have to say, here's what God says about it. At the same time, I want to be sensitive, because Scripture tells me to do that, to my culture around me, and try and think carefully how'd you put it, Jason? Well, why would you want to? You know, if you can have it without being, my term is rotting,
Yeah.
then why would you want to have it rotten? Well, that can be a personal preference, but I would still want to be careful from those around me.
Yeah.
What am I doing? So that's where a lot of these next questions come coming from. What is the value of abstinence, and what groups are either forbidden or restricted from the use of wine? And I was referring that to specifically in the Scriptures.
Yeah. Nazarites.
Okay, Nazarites.
Yeah, the Levite priest
Yeah.
when they were in the temple.
Yeah.
While they're serving.
While they're serving, they cannot at all. That's Leviticus 10.
But it's key is that they're not. It's not a vow. It's only while they're serving.
Mhm.
Right. And elders, there as far as a restriction.
There's
Yeah.
a restriction on elders.
Yeah.
There's a restriction on deacons
Deacons
too. It's just
actually-
not
Yeah.
as much.
Yeah.
I also, I don't know if this was mandated from God, it didn't sound like it was, but the Rechabites, or Rechabites or something like that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it came
they-
from the dad.
Yeah, that's why
There's a family.
I feel like it was just forbidden rather than,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, it was family tradition.
yeah, exactly.
We're Rechabites and we
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
drink.
But they were commended for their conviction and sticking to it.
Yeah, because they're still going to follow
Yeah.
what their father
Yeah.
had advised them.
Yeah.
Okay, so, well, what is the value of abstinence?
I mean, you never have a problem if you don't pick it up. There's no opportunity
You're
to
limiting
sin.
temptation.
Right.
You know? And then the one you brought up, you'll never be a stumbling block to somebody else.
And all these warnings about a brawler, a mocker,
Yeah.
impairing judgment, forgetting things you can avoid.
So when I talk
Okay, well, that's
about
the next
this,
question. What warnings are given?
oh
So obviously we can avoid all these if we don't.
boy, there's a lot. I mean, just even when you have all the ones in Proverbs I have here, and then I just saw one in Isaiah that I
Leads to, Proverbs 23 leads
Yeah.
to sorrow. I guess the Proverbs 31 about
King Lemuel.
the king, it impairs his judgment, he'll forget what he decreed.
yeah,
Oppress the rights of the less fortunate.
That's right.
yeah.
So that's strong warnings.
One is a mocker.
Strong drinker is a brawler.
Yeah.
He who is intoxicated by it is not wise. Did I get that right? I think it was King James.
Yeah, intoxicated by it. Yeah, because it's funny that it characterizes the wine.
Mm-hmm.
And if wine was a person, and that person was a mocker, a brawler, and not wise, you wouldn't want anything to do with them. And that's how it characterizes the wine. I never really looked at it that way till I was studying this.
Yeah, it's a strong warning.
Yeah.
See, everybody's affected differently by it, because you have people that do get violent when they drink too much. You get people that
Happy.
they're really happy, exactly. But
I think in that passage, he's not the emphasis is not on what the wine does to you. What wine is.
He actually personifies it.
This is the character of wine.
Yeah.
And if that character was a human being, you wouldn't want anything to do with this guy. You'd want to stay away from him.
But they don't put a level of how much wine there is, so it's almost like it's
No.
contradicting what
It
was
is.
said before.
Wine is a mocker, strong drink. Barley beer is a brawler. And why? And he says why. He was intoxicated by it, it's not wise.
I
So
got you.
this becomes the problem. So
Yeah.
it's like, can you have a friend who's obnoxious? Yes.
Yeah,
Are
as
you
long
gonna,
as
but the longer you stay by that friend, you
That's
pick
right.
up his personality.
Right.
So are you influencing him, or is he influencing you? The man is given to anger, we're already told.
right.
Keep a distance from it.
Yeah.
All right, so you don't want to learn his habits. So it's a personification, sort of like he does with wisdom as well, earlier in Proverbs. So he's trying to say there's a real problem, and it accents it. That's why he does it that way. It accents. Don't think that this is just something innocuous. You're gonna have to be very careful here. You know, if you're playing with a bunch of pit vipers, you gotta be careful how you're playing.
Yeah.
You don't want to get bit. And there's other ones, the description of the guy who's drunk.
Oh yeah. Wakes up in the morning and he's beat up and doesn't even know what happened to himself, right?
Yep.
He doesn't know, yeah, well, that's just it, he wants another drink, but just
And that-
the reeling,
wants
he
you to
sees
reinvent the whole
things,
day.
and, you know, he talks about like being on a ship, reeling. Well, what is that? It's staggering around. It's quite a description there, but it's part of the warning. And remember, this is given by Solomon, who early in Ecclesiastes says he learned how to drink where it would not, where he had feel the full effect without getting drunk, and still said it's vanity.
Right, he kept his line.
That's how he described it.
That's right, yeah.
So, you know, there's a value in absence in that all these warnings, you're not even have to be concerned about it. So that is a value of it. One of the values. 11, what caution should an elder or deacon have in relationship to alcoholic drinks, and why is there a different standard for each?
Yeah,
Okay,
we're
elders are not given to wine, deacons are not
You're
given
gonna
to
be an
much
example, so that's like the
That's
number
the
one
elder.
thing right there,
wine.
is, in either of them, you're an example, and people, you know, they're gonna always wanna follow your lead, and you have to have a clear mind, too.
We have to. So there is a difference. But it's important to point out there is a difference. It's
Yeah.
not the same standard for both of them.
Well, it goes back to that, what you said before, stays long at, that's their pattern of their life. Um,
Now notice it says elders are not given to wine. Does that mean the elders have to be totally absent?
No.
No. It's not his, first desire when he enters
Yeah.
a feast. It's, you know,
Yeah, he doesn't go over
You can
check
have
out
it.
the-
he doesn't, yeah, it's not like, you know.
He can live without it, and he can, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I interpret it, is given is like, kind
You're
of like
thinking
you
about it.
give into a temptation or something like that. That's how I always thought it meant.
He's not going to be known for it. There's no characterization there. You know, he's not going to be.
dwelling on it. Wonder what they're gonna have.
He
Might
care
be-
less.
Yeah, could care less, exactly.
Okay, there's things that are more important. And what about the deacon?
I hate to say they can care about it a little bit more.
Don't be found hanging out in bars.
I think, yeah,
That's how
well,
I
I don't think it's either
interpret
one.
that.
I don't either, I don't,
They're probably not either one. Okay.
I see
Deacon-
that, I think the elder is teaching all the time.
yeah.
Should be.
In our, if we're examples, that means we're teaching all the time. So we're always teaching, so our behavior always is, we're always teaching in our actions, no matter
Yeah.
where we are. I think it's a big, I think that's why there's the big difference. The deacons don't have that
Yeah,
requirement.
All right, so
What are you teaching?
an elder and a deacon walk into not a bar. They walk into wedding reception for some friends of theirs who are Catholic. And there was a wine table set up. Where does the elder go?
Hopefully not to the wine table.
To
Hopefully just to his
the, to the
table.
coffee table.
The coffee table.
That's a different situation altogether, because now you have eyes on you and you're a public
Yeah,
figure.
you do.
So you can't, like he said before, it's what Paul talks about in Corinthians, about being, you have that liberty, but if you're gonna offend a brother or sister or cause them to stumble, then you should.
Yeah,
There's no
I
more
think that's
separate.
one of my biggest things, like, I mean, I make no argument, like, I make, you know, when I was a kid, I was a train wreck, but I always, when I get to this topic, I say, there's nothing wrong with it, but there's a lot, the biggest thing is a stumbling block, because you don't even know if you are. Somebody could just be looking at you and think you're spiritual, and you're sitting there drinking. And they might be struggling with it, and they just haven't let anybody know.
Yeah,
You know?
nobody's gonna really they're just gonna make an assumption. They're not gonna,
Right.
most people are not gonna go up to you and be like, hey,
Yeah.
what's your take on this? How come you're doing it? You know, they're just gonna,
So I'm always
they're just
somebody.
like, oh, he's a Christian and he's drinking alcohol.
Especially you go to a Catholic wedding.
Yeah,
Okay, they're gonna talk. Oh, he's the elder in that. You
yeah,
know,
exactly.
that church.
Right.
That's their first
Sure.
and probably only impression
Right.
of you.
Yeah.
And you're like, you're no different than anybody else. We blew it. We didn't set. We weren't teaching. We
Yeah.
weren't setting an example.
But it almost eliminates, actually, like if you do like to drink, eliminating drinking in public,
Mhm.
you know, so then,
Probably would.
I would
because then,
Yeah.
because if you're concerned about your brother, you know, even the one you may not even know, then that really kind of, you better
And
do
that's
this in your
especially true
home.
here in the United States, because there is this perception that if you're really godly, you're not going to.
Yeah.
So it's not trying to cater them, but it's trying to make sure that we're sensitive in our own culture. What is it we're projecting to people? And recognizing how many people do have a problem now with alcohol, because
Yeah.
it's not what it was. It is much stronger. Drunkenness is a big problem. You know, if you're the leader and you have it, yeah, you immediately become the excuse for them to join in. So yeah, we may have freedom, but we're not going to use it that way. Okay, so we're going to be careful, and that's why there is a difference there, and the elder does have a much higher responsibility. So it's not a requirement. It doesn't say abstinence,
No.
but it is going to be much more. We're not given to it. We're not known for it. We're not, well, you know, wonder what kind of wine we're going to get. It's immaterial to us. Care less.
And what Ed, well, that's basically what we're saying about King Lemuelu in Proverbs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not elders are kings, but we have to be able to
There are leadership.
get our leadership.
All right, 12. What signs indicate a person has crossed the line and has a problem with alcohol?
I put drunkenness on any level. I mean,
Mhm.
I mean, the next question too, you know, like you break it down, minor, significant, and serious. A minor problem is still a sin problem, you know, so.
So that's in that situation. I wasn't sure if you meant like a long-term thing.
Well, that's why there's two questions.
Yeah.
All right, so because I was looking at that as long-term, because I had co-workers and I had to
That's
deal with
question
this.
13 is the
That's
long
question,
term.
okay.
The first question is what Jim was talking about, is like,
Yeah.
you get drunk, you cross the line.
You cross
Yeah,
the line.
that's it.
And that's why, like, you know, I mean, I'm gonna have a different opinion. Like, I don't have a problem with a Christian drinking. My issue would be is that you never know. It's not like you take this amount and you know that won't lead to drunkenness. You could have something going on in your life. You may not have eaten. So you
Tired.
know, you could be tired, and it's like, you know, so like the
Bible
Bible's
had
very,
Mickey in there.
yeah, it's very clear. Drinking
Well,
is not the problem.
let-
Drunkenness is.
Let's take a few steps back. Now that we're talking about stronger drinks, now that they distill,
Mhm.
I think there should be some clarity in what you just said, because, I mean, if you're taking shots of vodka that's a little bit different than a Christian drinking some wine at a dinner party. You know what I'm saying?
Why-
No, but you could have a bad reaction even with
You can't with
wine, you know?
Well, the question,
And that's just as, and don't
What
get
I'm
me-
saying
don't
is,
get
if
me wrong,
you're
I don't
taking
think,
shots of vodka,
There's-
isn't your purpose to get drunk for the most part? Like,
well, no, I mean, you
I
might
think
just
was
like
the,
that.
scene in It's a Wonderful Life, you know, where he comes up.
Yeah.
We serve hard liquor to people who want to get drunk.
oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, that's pretty honest.
yeah.
But I just, you know,
The question is intoxicated, so at this point, whether it's one shot of
Yeah.
whiskey or 8 glasses of wine, they're
Whatever it
intoxicated,
is.
they
Yeah,
got a
it's-
problem.
You know you've
They
crossed
could have
the
a
line.
problem
Yeah.
if they want to get drunk, they may already have a problem with
Okay.
alcohol.
Well, now we'll go to the second
That's the
question.
purpose.
So it's just, if you got drunk, you crossed the line, period.
absolutely, and that's the way you gotta, oh, I got tipsy, what, you know,
But
like,
that
what does
doesn't
that mean?
necessarily mean you have a problem with alcohol.
No, no,
It just
you
means you
just
have
crossed,
bad judgment.
exactly.
Okay.
Well, you just, yeah, you might not have a problem, but you,
I mean, see, that's why
it's just a,
a long-term,
Yes.
the question sounds like a long-term
It was
thing,
clear.
rather than, that's why I
If you
I
got
asked.
drunk, you have a problem.
yeah.
that day.
It might,
That day, it may not be, okay, you got it, you're gonna learn from it, like you
Right.
said, but.
you have a First John
you
1
already have a
9,
problem.
and it's, you know, that's, you know.
Okay. So how about some things, because here's.
Let's just say this too.
Okay.
If you just engorge yourself at the table and was a glutton, you do still have
There's a
that same
problem.
problem.
Yeah,
You still
yeah.
have that same problem.
Gluttony is also a sin.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
Very acceptable among Christians. Yeah. I think we already talked about gluttony in another one.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm trying to do is bring out that, okay, we see someone, this happen, then there's a problem. And if you see it as an elder, you're gonna have to talk to them.
Yeah.
Okay, obviously something happened. What happened? You know, why did you do this? And you have to deal with the issue. There is a problem. Now, how significant of a problem it is, okay, they may have stumbled, they may, like you said, all right, you know, the wine was there and they're thirsty and there was no water and they hadn't eaten anything, and so, and next thing you know, okay, it's affected them a whole lot more than they expected.
Yeah.
Or it was a fortified wine and they didn't expect that.
Exactly.
Okay, so there's a lot of things it could just be is, I didn't intend this, it was purely accidental.
So they wouldn't have a problem. They would have just
Well, it's still a problem.
They stumbled.
They
They
still-
stumbled.
they stumbled.
The thing is, it's a
Yeah.
problem that day, it may not be a problem,
for
Yeah,
a lifestyle problem.
Yeah.
All
That's-
right, I know when I stumble, it hurts, therefore it's a problem.
Yeah.
Now, if I recover, then it's not long-term, but that's the second question, supposed to be long-term. Because that's gonna be one that we're gonna get a lot more. We're not gonna get a whole lot of, okay, someone, we saw them get tipsy at the wedding, you know, they had too much champagne or something.
Yeah,
Now, we're gonna be thinking about that, we may have our eye on them, but what happens when we start seeing something increasing in this? What kinds of signs are we looking for? Because they can also, there's a sign here that we want to consider, and they may never get drunk. But they may still have a problem with alcohol.
Yeah, I mean, I've met people that in talking to them, they don't verbalize that they're drunk, but there seems to be, this is my routine.
Yeah, we just had a foreman on our job, on our project. He got, I don't know what his actual title is now at this point, but he actually got kicked off the project because he failed an alcohol test. But everybody that knows him say, yeah, dude, that like this is how he functions.
Yeah.
Like if he does not have his vodka, like he's unbearable to deal with.
Oh boy.
So yeah,
But
to say what you're.
Yeah. Well,
say what
you
you're
know,
saying.
some people,
Yeah,
you know,
that's-
they
I don't
have a
think it's a problem.
routine, like it might be that they have this or that with their dinner, and then somehow that gets interrupted, and they're out of whack about that. That to me is like, they might not get drunk, but they're,
Well, if they
it's
don't
not, they can't, it's almost like if it's not part of their routine, and maybe you can make that argument with anything, but
Well, are we supposed to be controlled by anything?
No,
No,
where it
that's
brings it
pretty
back
massive.
to enslavement, because that's where I was going with it. It sounds like there's an
That's what I was looking
enslavement
for.
issue here. And it may not even be that you're getting drunk, but there just seems to be some kind of, this is part of my life. You know, when I don't have it, something's not
Well,
right
one
here.
person put it this way, they realized they would have a glass of wine because it helped them go to sleep.
Yeah,
And they found that after a while, they kept thinking about and longing for that glass of wine, and they realized, I think I'm developing a problem,
yeah.
because it becomes enslaving.
Yeah.
So you got that principle that needs to be thrown in there someplace. We want to help people with that.
And that could go for anything.
Yeah.
It can go for anything.
Everything.
That's why my chocolate's kept in the freezer. I'd be enslaved to it. That's all there is to it.
But going back to the question, if they're not getting intoxicated, it could be the issue of them, something's master over them. But you're asking if they are getting intoxicated.
Okay, now
Is that
we're
your
gonna-
real question?
We're going to start escalating it.
Okay.
So it could be, so that's why, okay, there's a minor problem here, okay? There's something that's developing that could become really serious.
So you're talking about intoxication, or you're talking about what we
I'm
just
talking
talked about?
We're talking about enslavement, because
Okay,
intoxication
okay.
is
Yep.
just how far down the road of enslavement are you?
Yeah.
You know, one is, okay, I'm the slave, and at the end is I'm in shackles.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, who's to judge that a person is intoxicated necessarily? Because I know people that drink because they're trying to, like, get rid of the worries of the world, right? They're not necessarily
Yeah, that's-
intoxicated, but
If-
I would
They
still
want the
consider that
buzz.
to be a problem.
Depends how often they're doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the proper way to deal with the worries of the world?
Cast all your cares.
So that's why I'm kind of pushing this a little bit, is we want to be sensitive to recognize what people are doing. And it's not this, thou shalt not drink. It's, okay, I want to understand what you're doing, why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so even if a person have a wine with their dinner every night, some cultures do.
Yes, that's
They
what,
do.
yeah.
They would
That's
not
correct.
be considered, that would not be considered a problem, so it has to do, it's why you're drinking as well.
Yeah. It's always, isn't that what we found in all these things? It's always
Yeah,
like,
it is.
what's your motivation for it?
Yeah, because that's where we're going to actually help people.
Yeah.
Because like, we're saying, Jason, if we find out, okay, they want the buzz, it helps them relax, either Tom T. Hall, I like beer, it makes me a jolly good fellow, makes me feel mellow. I mean, it's an old country song from the last millennium. Okay, you want to do this. I want to know, how can I help you walk with Christ so that you can see there's a different way to deal with those worries? Because all that does, and drunkenness becomes just an escalation of the same thing, is I don't want to think about it. Proverbs 31, let me know, give drink to who? Those who have no hope. So give that to them so they can forget their worries. So it's a very common motivation for people to do that. I don't want to think about it. I want the buzz. I want my mind at rest. Whatever the problems are, did they go away?
No.
No. So we want to start helping them with strategies of how do I live life to the glory of God, and even dealing with these things that instead of trying to escape it, how do I help them deal with it? And that's where they really need your help. And that's why we always want to be looking for motivation of why are they going that direction? Something's there, there's a reason they're doing it. Can we help them then move to actually walking with Christ? So that if they want to have it because they like it, okay, they can rejoice over it as, I like the flavor of the wine or whatever it is they like, because I know people get into real fancy stuff and nuances of the nuttiness and the hint of this or whatever. If they like pleasing their palate that way, okay. I want to know, are you praising God for that? Are you praising God for the ability to discern these things and what He allows you to do, or is it you're fixated on this is your life?
Yeah, that's a good word.
There's the two extremes. So I should be able to enjoy without being moving in the direction of addicted to it for whatever reason. And there's people get addicted to alcohol, and we're going to use that into drugs as well for different reasons. Escape's a common one.
Yeah,
I would say it's the most common.
yeah.
Okay, but there's also social drinking. They do it to fit in with the group.
Yeah.
I work with a guy who,
But
he had
that-
stopped drinking, and he'd go to the bars with his friends. His friends didn't want him at the bar anymore. He wasn't getting drunk with them. He'd have a Coke, and they just said, "We don't want you here."
Yeah.
He's like, "Well, what? I'm still your friend. You're not getting drunk with us." So you have social drinking, you have a lot of peer pressure to get on you. That's another one. Some of it, escape pain, not just emotional worries, it's physical pain. So using it as an analgesic. So there's all sorts of things that could be there, but if you don't start asking the questions, you're not going to find out. If you come in with a "thou shalt not" with, a holier than thou attitude, you're not going to get them to open up.
No.
And you may just end up pushing the problem to something else. We want to help people where they're really at. Whatever the problem is, we would like to help them with where are they really at. Now, something you had said earlier, Jason, though, it's like liquors. Did I have that question down here?
No, I don't think
No,
so.
I did. Are liquors appropriate for Christians? We'll put it that way.
You have that in one of the case things.
Oh, okay, I thought I had.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get the case things
I
in.
think it
Let's
was,
push on then.
right?
Okay, how can you help a person that has a problem? If it's a minor problem, how can you help them?
I viewed it all as sin, so, I guess I
They
wrote,
have a minor enslavement to sin, whatever the sin is, this one,
Okay.
alcohol. How you gonna
If
help?
it's alcohol, what we just talked about, first of all, find out the reason why.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it,
Start asking questions.
is it, they're hanging out with a different group of friends and they're drinking, they wanna fit in? Are they having relationship problems? The guy is starting to have problems with his wife, problems on a job, try to get all that, try to get a picture of where he's at emotionally.
Okay, so if it's a minor, it may just be a matter of, the guy needs some encouragement and counseling.
Yeah, he's seeking for help and he's just starting to look in the wrong place.
Okay.
yeah,
How could this become where it's significant?
Well, you gotta get intimately involved and shut him down fast. You may have to go to his house or her house and empty the cabinet and
yeah.
start
And
spending a lot of
Yeah.
time with them when they're alone and
Yeah, you gotta
it helps strengthen them through it.
probably start steering away from that, well, this is a disease and this is, this,
Yeah.
this is, because in that, to me, the disease thing is just, I'm not responsible.
That's
Yeah.
exactly.
So he'll never,
Yeah, well, that'd all be part of it, telling them that the consequences
Yeah.
of it, and of course, why, because it's probably started out as a minor problem. So that means those issues didn't go away, it's just we know that alcohol didn't work. He didn't do what he wants to do for those issues to go away, and, you gotta work on the issues. But the added issue is now the
So this is part of bearing the burden, you actually, you have to get really involved.
yeah, you have no choice, you're gonna have to spend time with this person, lots of time.
So you're over at his house, you find out the wife is saying, yeah, he's getting drunk now all the time, and she asks, well, do you have anything in the house? He says, yes.
how does it get it,
So what are you gonna do? Yes, I have it in the house.
take it,
Get rid of it.
pour it down the sink.
Yeah.
Not take it, pour it down the sink.
I've done that. It's an interesting reaction, like,
Yeah.
it's like, but I didn't do it without his permission. I said, are you really serious about that? Yeah.
Right.
Okay, then this goes down the sink.
Yeah, because if you,
Oh, and he
if the
says-
person's not on board,
They'll just find
they'll
out.
just
No matter
find,
what
they'll
you
just
do.
go find it somewhere else.
But if I'm gonna help, then I means I'm gonna get involved, I'm actually, there's accountability in there. What if it's, serious?
Like he may need professional help, like
I
rehab
may
or
need,
something.
like a
Yeah.
rehab, okay? What's the difference between a rehab and just trying to help on your own?
I mean, you're pulling a
more
person out of,
concentrated.
it's a safe environment, I guess. I mean, you're gonna get pulled out, you're gonna be put someplace where it's not gonna be easy to get it. you know, especially if you're being held against your will.
It's just taking
It gives you a
that-
time to, you
Yeah.
know, clear your head out.
Also,
There's
it's
other-
getting them detoxed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, but people can, they have more encouragement when they're with people of the same character, like, if you don't have a problem with drinking, but I do,
You're not
I
gonna
could always
relate.
be like, yeah, well, your
don't
life is
like-
good, you can't,
You don't understand.
you don't understand me, so
Mhm.
people of like mind in that situation, it's a little bit more,
Then you run into
it's
the
still
whole,
secular, but
Yeah, well, yeah, it's what.
that's the problem.
And not
You're
not even
giving
as
them
it's
Jesus.
secular, it actually then introduces them to whole
Okay.
sorts of,
Well, I put it in that way because minor, it may need some counseling. You're gonna get involved. Significant, you're gonna have to be. You have to help bear their burden. Serious, you probably have to get them a detox
yeah.
because that's the first thing. And then it's going to be much more accountability, and it may need to be in a program where they are separated out
Yeah.
and cannot get to it, and they can start getting their life on track because they're going to have to start thinking differently, like a Transformation Life Center. That's their whole point. It's getting in a position where it's okay. You've messed your life up so much, you're going to take 6 months to a year out of your life, and you're going to be living here. And we're going to get you a whole new routine and get you out of this till you start living in a different way. For some it works, for some it doesn't. For some they get back in the same environment, go right back to it, and others they're radically changed.
And it's, with something like that, it is biblically based. It's not,
That's
it's not gonna be a higher power and hocus
Right.
pocus and
this could be really
a God of your
difficult.
own making.
When I was in LA, there was a fellow who would come around the church, and he'd do okay, and then he'd get paid, and he'd like these big walkers, and he'd get drunk, and then it'd be a problem. And Diane and I hadn't been married all that long, about a year. Neighbor called, said, yeah, he's back over around the church, so we have to take this. Okay, so we brought him to the house, called Union Rescue Mission. They couldn't take him until the next day. So we had him sleep in our garage. He threw up all over everything. Oh, it was a mess. It's like, all right. We got involved in the guy's life. So we got him down there. He got detox. That took a couple weeks. Another guy in the church arranged, started working for him, and he actually understood the problem. But we had to get involved enough to know where the weakness was. His problem was the paycheck. As soon as he got the paycheck, I got money, I'm going to go.
Yeah.
So he withheld the paycheck and said, when you need money, let me know, we'll buy it for you, and we're going to keep the running account. He was also teaching them how to use his money. That's how involved we got with the guy. And it was actually doing very well until the boss wasn't there and somebody else gave him the check. He collapsed back in, and
Was this the guy in the railroad track?
yeah.
Oh, boy.
It's like war, you shut off the supply lines, the logistics lines, and
So, but it just means that you have to escalate this. That's my main point, and that's what I wanted you guys to see, and I think you see that. Okay, what is acceptable for? When is it acceptable for a Christian to take drugs?
when you're sick.
Medicinal reasons.
Medicinal reasons, the doctor's order.
From the doctor, I
Okay.
should have clarified that.
Yeah,
Doctor's order.
and the doctor
Doctors
says,
prescribe
Okay.
Doctors
We're talking about
prescribe
prescription
medicinal
drugs, okay,
reasons.
the over-the-counter stuff, same thing. Some over-the-counter stuff can be bad too.
oh, I know,
If you're not
a young
following the
girl got
directions.
addicted to NyQuil. You're getting high on NyQuil.
It's high alcohol.
That's
right?
expensive.
Well, yeah,
It's-
It's got
It is.
alcohol in it
It's
too?
like 50 proof, I think. It's like
It's pretty
40
high.
No,
Something.
yeah, it's like 20% alcohol, I think.
I don't like taking full stuff.
And it had antihistamine on top of it.
well, isn't hydrocodone or something like that,
Yeah.
prescription drugs?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like one of the main things that people run out of and turn to heroin.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they've gotten addicted to it. So, when's acceptable? Just under doctor's orders, supervision, when you're following directions on the package for something over the counter for an actual
Stop
problem.
as soon as you
right?
don't need it.
That's okay.
Yeah.
When is it always unacceptable for a Christian to take drugs?
If they're illegal.
Yeah. When they're illegal, contrary to the doctor's orders. We're breaking lots of laws there, right? With lots of principles in Scripture. So there's the two extremes.
Yeah, but I think you should probably touch on marijuana because now our country's making it legal.
Yeah. We had, there was another class we touched on that, but, you know, I mean, wasn't there, I think Randy was there, right? Or there was some,
Well, they're doing all sorts of things. We'll talk about marijuana in a minute, since you got it about.
yeah.
16.
Because
what
you're right.
Case
signs-
study on it or not.
Yeah.
What signs would you look for that would indicate a person has developed a problem with legal medications?
Prolonged use
If they're
after
taking-
symptoms have gone away, changing doctors often.
Yeah, that's what I put, doctor hopping.
Complaint about doctors, changing pharmacies, going to doctors that are far away from their home.
Changes in behavior.
Yeah, big
Changes in
swings,
mood.
absence from normal activities. They would go off work a lot. They would attend Bible studies and they kind of stop, stuff like that.
Okay. So in some ways it's very similar to alcoholism, and in some ways it's harder because it's easier to keep the pills in your pocket. You know, I'm not really sure what's going on. And the symptoms
They don't have
may
an
not
odor
be
on
as-
them.
It's not as
Usually.
an outward appearance, it doesn't
Yeah,
have an outward
you don't
and
appearance.
it may
stink.
not be as outward.
Right, yeah.
Okay, but we have to be, how do you help someone who's abusing drugs?
It's
really the same way.
Same way as,
Yeah.
as
Yeah,
alcohol.
you gotta try and love them reward.
You know, I had put down this, you know, I mean, we do have to confront them with their sin within the framework of Matthew 18 too, you know? I mean, if they're, let's say the drunkenness or abusing, well, this doesn't say whether they're legal or not, but
Depends
either
on the
way,
person.
you know,
You're talking about a Christian brother though.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
If you're talking about a friend that's unsaved, you ain't gonna Matthew 18.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
no.
it doesn't apply.
yeah,
I think people who have that problem don't want to hear they have a sin problem. They want to,
yeah.
they want to, you know, I'm not saying you don't point out that they have a sin problem, but you want to tread lightly on that respect because,
You mean for the one who's not a believer? Yeah,
Absolutely.
I don't know if you tread so lightly on
No,
it,
no,
because
you-
if they die, then they step into eternity.
that's not what I'm
after that.
talking about.
No,
I'm
I know.
talking about
Yeah.
you gotta love them to the Lord. You can't just be like, yo, dude, you're sinning against God. You know, they're not gonna want to hear that.
Well, I would be
We
like,
tell them in a nice, gentle
Nice
way,
way,
but
yeah.
they should know that because if anything's going to get them out of that, it's going to be Christ. So they need
Yeah.
Christ. That's the first thing they'll need in their lives. I think so. It's a matter of how you do
yeah,
it.
it's, you gotta,
I think
you
can
gotta be quiet, because
confront
they're,
someone on their sin and tell them they stand in a wrong place with Christ in a gentle manner, and where you can demonstrate that you actually care about them. You're not trying to.
it's not just words.
It's not just I'm trying to trash you or anything like that. Or
Yeah.
it doesn't come off where I'm better than you. I think there is a gentle, caring way we can do it.
I like this
Yeah.
identifying,
Yeah.
if we can.
Well, yeah. One way is.
Yeah, dude, I was just
listen,
like you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
Different sin, same issue though.
yeah.
Usually it is. But it's getting involved. So that's why the dealing with it really is the same as alcohol. Alcohol is a drug. That's why TLC and other, whether it's alcohol or drugs, the program is really the same. Trying to get to whatever's underlying it and pushing it and dealing with the real issues that are.
yeah, well, I
That are
kinda go
pushing
back to the counseling class that we took, you know, like you really, it's almost like a workflow, like,
Yes.
who are you dealing with here now? Is it a believer or not a believer? And you go, you know, different areas.
And if you get him as a believer, now he has the Holy Spirit. If he comes to Christ, he doesn't have to rely on me necessarily by myself or a doctor by himself. He now has a Holy Spirit that's going to be abiding in him.
Yeah.
And he'll have everything he needs to live a life of godliness and holiness.
Holiness, yeah.
There's nothing better than that to get him out of this problem.
It's the only thing that really works.
You know, so
I mean, I know many people who've been in
Yeah.
12-step programs, my own family members.
Mm-hmm.
But unless they repent, they will die in their sins. They will be sober, but they will die in their sins.
And it may not.
That's the reality.
And the underlying issues that got him into this, but they may not ever get resolved. There could be sin issues that are causing the alcoholism or the drug abuse that may never be addressed. And
Or they just switch one vice for a different
yes,
one.
That's what happens.
That would happen.
John's
what-
pointed that out
Yeah.
many times about the folks in AA is okay, they gave up alcohol and then they died of drug overdose.
or they become sex addicts, they come, you know,
They just switch
it's
to
just, they
something
just
else.
switch something
Because you're not
else.
dealing with the real issue, and our goal is going to be trying to help people with real issues.
Yeah.
Since you brought up marijuana, and I probably should have had a question in here about, okay, the drug is legalized. How do we help someone when, so it's legalized? Alcohol really is the same
Alcohol is
issue.
legal.
It's legal.
Well, yeah, I mean, what's our opinion then? You know, I mean, it would still be, okay, what's the motivation, what's the reason, like,
Okay,
why, is this?
so let's deal specifically with marijuana.
Yeah,
There's a push, Como is trying to push it that we should legalize it here.
I'm sure it will be very soon, very soon.
It's legal in a bunch of states now for personal use. So what's the problem with it?
The intoxication.
Yeah, intoxication,
We
still.
lose control, we lose judgment.
It's a gateway drug.
Well, it's definitely a gateway
Yeah.
drug. There's no question about that. It also has a very strong tie to
Form-
paranoia
uh,
and mental health problems. There's not a question on that medically. But that's not what's being sold to everybody. Sort of like, you guys had your alcohol, we want our Mary Jane.
Well, but they're controlling it in the, like you're supposed to be going to, what is it called?
Dispensaries.
Dispensaries, where they're not adding, they're not
Just trying-
lacing it with fentanyl and stuff like that, like they're doing on the street.
They're just hoping to get the tax dollars off it.
Yeah, I think that's the main reason why you legalize it.
Yes, you're exactly
Yeah, they
right.
think that.
The only reason you legalize it, really.
Yeah, they're gonna get that.
Tax-
they're
They
gonna
can
get
say
some of that
whatever they
money.
want, that's exactly why.
But,
And they'll be, and if they get people addicted, they make more money. Government
And
comes
they will.
up.
well,
Push
that's how
it.
this country is.
Well, it's a bad drug, and we should be point blank on it. It's a very dangerous drug.
I mean, you also, what's the pharmakia? You know, is
It's
it
drugs, sorcery. It's,
sorcery? Is
Yeah,
it, does it
the
open you up
translation, it's
to
pharmakia.
sorcery and, so,
so just because it's legal doesn't make it right.
no.
And the question is going to go back to the other principles we talked about a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, are you in
Escape
control
it.
of it? Why are you escaping? Which goes back to the same thing. It's okay, the guy wants to get his buzz to escape the world. Why? What are you trying to escape from? Why are you not dealing with the way God tells you to escape? To deal with those issues. And there's all sorts of things people use for escape, but that's not how God wants us to deal with it. Let's help one another. Marijuana is a very dangerous drug. Where it's being legalized, it's more dangerous driving.
Right.
They're having more problems with just workers. When it got legalized in Colorado, there were companies that said, we're leaving Colorado, we can't get workers who come in and not stoned.
Well, they have insurance reasons. They have, they'll have insurance reasons, and, then if they legalize it, I mean, they're not gonna be able to get anybody. They're not gonna
Mhm.
pass the test.
You put your neighbors at risk, that's not very loving.
No, not at all.
You're not loving your neighbor if you're putting them at risk because you're driving high.
Well, same with alcohol.
It's same with alcohol.
Same with
I mean,
alcohol or
I mean,
But we've gotten a position, so instead of
Illegal drugs.
people being held accountable for what they do, it's a disease, there's always some excuse, so they're not held accountable. So they go out, they're drunk, they're high, they kill someone in their car, and sad. But we can't really punish them, it's not their fault.
Well, it's still vehicular manslaughter, though. You get in trouble
Well,
for
they
it.
get in trouble for it, but they don't get they get out of it. There's too many people who've got multiple DUIs, and they're still out there.
You mean they killed somebody?
Yeah, even killing somebody, and it's how much money you got, and get the right lawyer, and you can get out of it.
Well, I'm not disputing that.
That's
true.
Yeah.
So,
Usually the people
you
that
go to
have money.
rehab for a few months and
yeah,
they,
so you have
they,
to cure,
it's all negotiated deals.
but this will hit, we'll get faced with this, now that it's legal, because it will be, at one point, it will be, so,
Well, there's already people advocating because it's medicinally.
yeah.
You can have it for medicinal purposes. And like saying, what exactly is it that you're getting? Where are you getting it? We're gonna have to be straightforward in a lot of this because the same thing is with a lot of the other drugs as well. Okay, it's a legal drug, and you can see they're abusing it. We have to be willing to get in. It's like and tell them point blank, you are abusing it. Now that may mean you need to get someone who's got some medical knowledge about it to come in with you and confront the person.
Yeah.
Okay, because if you don't know
What
the
you're
medical
talking about,
aspects of it, you may need to have someone who says, like, look, this is what's actually going on medically, and this is what you're damaging yourself. Yeah, it gets to be strange, but there's always this push, we want to escape. And that's opposite of how God wants us to deal with life. It's not about escape. It's about dealing with life and seeing His hand at work. But escape culture is part of it. So we don't have much time. Let's get into gambling. What is gambling? Are there any scriptures that directly prohibit gambling?
I kind of made up my own. I said
You
gambling.
made up your own scripture?
No, no.
Yeah, I don't think there's a scripture yet.
No,
Feeling bad
what is
about it.
gambling? I put gambling is a risk of money in hopes of winning more money than risk or some other item of value, typically with odds not being in one's favor that you will.
Okay. That's a good definition. Webster should pay attention to you. Okay. Are there any scriptures that directly prohibit gambling?
I put I do not believe so.
I don't think so.
Okay. I think that's another
And I didn't even
important
make
one.
any up.
So where does the problem come? Okay. What is the connection? What connection is there between greed and gambling?
Yeah, that's how you could kind of read
Yeah,
into gambling being wrong.
That's
That's the
exactly.
problem.
Yeah.
I find it really right here. You know, the connection is a lack of contentment in one circumstance, which is an assault on how God's right is created to provide for us as He chooses. That's what it is. We're saying it's not good enough what you've done for me. I need to make my own way or whatever. You know,
I want more and I want it now.
I want it more and I want it now.
That's exactly the problem. If you had a bunch of people, they wanted to play poker with chips, there's no money involved. They're still gambling because how many chips do you get? Or what they're using pennies.
Like, is it wrong? Is that
Is
what
it, is that what your question?
Mm-hmm.
If it,
I
if
don't
it's
feel
just
like
a
that's
fun
wrong.
game,
I don't feel like that's
and
wrong.
everyone throws their pennies back in a pile at the end, I don't
Yeah.
think so.
Well, okay, so the guy at the end, he wins the pennies, so he goes home with, $4.
Yeah, but the whole point is that that's different because that's like entertainment. Like if you paid to go bowling, you know what I mean? You're playing poker, you enjoy it, and you're with your friends and stuff like that.
So you're basically
I know
saying,
what I'm hearing myself say.
Yeah.
I just don't.
The problem is, when you take it further, it
anytime-
becomes a problem.
yeah.
Okay, that's why the
you can
questions were
say this is a
referred-
waste of money with anything. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, but it goes back down to what's your motivation. Like, what is it? Is it just to have fun?
Yeah, but
like
that's
you
what
said?
I mean. Are you playing poker only because you want to win the money?
Yeah.
Or are you doing it because it's like the social thing? I'm getting together
I want to
with
be the
my
best
buddies.
poker player.
Yeah.
You know, I win. It's like what Monopoly. You know, I win.
Well, pennies is okay, nickels is not.
Nickels is no good?
Yeah, that's the threshold.
Because I would even say, like, if I got together with some people and they're like, yo, $20. I'm like, all right, whatever, what's $20? To me, that's not gambling because it's like, all right, I'm paying for entertainment. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
All right,
It's
because
where you
That's
key-
the argument
The
that's
second
often-
question was, it's the greed
Yeah.
problem.
So it's
Okay.
why you're playing.
Because you start getting into it, that's where gambling becomes a problem in society,
Yeah.
because all it does is feed the greed,
Yeah.
okay? Okay, next question is, okay, underlying this, how is gambling contrary to basic principles of biblical economics and Christian stewardship?
You know, being a good steward
Yeah,
with
first-
God's money.
1 Timothy 6, you know, it's a love of money, you know, and then it's the root of
All sorts of evil.
all sorts of evil. I mean,
Yeah.
there's one question going.
And I add in there, it's contrary to scripture regarding the relationship between labor and wealth. It,
Yeah.
it
Yeah, that's
destroys
good.
that relationship,
Yeah,
and
that's
that's
good.
pretty strong. There's a lot of scripture on there.
It's very
So-
strong. So we want to be careful again here. It's what actually is the underlying problem. It's a human nature problem.
Then
And
you
it's gonna
can
pop up in all
throw,
sorts of places.
you can
Yeah.
throw this on based on that, that Jeopardy guy, the one who won like
Ken
200.
Jennings?
No, the guy who just fell short of breaking him. I forget his name, James something. But he was a
Oh, the young
professional
kid.
gambler.
Yes,
That was his job.
I heard about him.
You know, it was
He's young
sports.
kid.
It was something with
Yes.
sports, very specialized. Like, you know, like how much they would score in this inning. That was his job, and and that's how he played the game also. So know, but what's his motivation? Is it love for money? Is it greed? Or is he just
Making a living.
making a living?
Thinking this is how to make a living?
Yeah.
So that's why the other question, number 3,
Yeah.
how is that contrary to basic principles of biblical economics?
You know, like with him, so if he does all the background work
Yes, that's
on
what I mean.
sports teams and evaluate statistics and scenarios, and
That's what he does.
Okay, but who's,
You're still betting on an outcome to happen, which you have no control over.
okay, what,
Exactly.
where's he getting
No.
the money from?
Well, I don't know.
Well,
I
I don't
mean,
know. He's
people-
I don't,
saying
you know, we
Yeah,
don't
I don't
know.
know.
And we don't even know his, you know, we obviously don't know his heart and what drives him to do this.
Okay,
He
but-
just may
okay.
be, he could be, and I'm not justifying, but it sounds to me he's a statistical guy.
Yeah.
And that's what he's doing. He's playing, he actually researches of what I know. And there's many people who do this. And that is their job. They're into statistics and they just will bet on it. It's almost like, I guess you could make the argument, insurance.
well, I think the risk.
I'm not justifying what he does, but somebody would say that's my job, you know, like to combat what Ed said.
I think the risk is only one aspect of it, the stewardship. The other aspect is the motivation, the green. I want to make big money right now.
Yeah.
All right.
Why
I don't
is he
wanna-
doing
I don't
that
wanna
versus
have to
something
work
else?
and save and sacrifice for 20 years to make my million. I want to put in $2 today, and I wanted my million tomorrow. You know, those are two big aspects of it. Because in risk, you're opening up a business is always going to be risk.
Yes.
You invest in stocks is always a risk. You don't know what's going to happen. So the risk is only part of it as far as bad stewardship. You know,
My dad said farmers were the biggest gamblers.
that's right. Farmers,
Yeah.
you don't know what crop you
You
get.
don't know?
You don't know.
You know how, yeah, I know what price you get at the end.
Yeah.
So it comes
One other
back to
factor,
like,
what about the neighbor?
excuse me?
What about love of neighbor? If you're gambling,
Right.
where's the money coming from that you win?
That's an excellent point.
It's yeah,
And then-
usually
then
other
somebody-
gamblers.
From the
There's
person.
somebody would argue, well, you know, I'm 4 people removed from that, but it's still, you're still getting something from somebody else. You're not stealing it, but, yeah. Don't get me wrong, I don't gamble, I'm just trying to, you know,
Well, this is what I'm trying to make you,
Yeah.
get you to think through. There's a lot of ramifications of this.
what I think through is what Ed said, and that person who's an actual, that's their job, you know, and I'm not mean their
we're-
job is going to the horse track every
They
week.
get
We're
the
still
mo-
missing something
They get
because
the money
like
from the people that lost.
buying one lotto ticket, is that really gambling?
Yeah.
This, to me, I'll be honest with you,
Not really.
I've seen these things, I've seen like the jackpots get high, and I'll be like, maybe I should do that, and I'll be like, no.
Yes.
I know right now that I'm not happy how God's provided for me. When I think that,
And,
There you
and
go.
why,
No,
and
you're
why do
helping
you,
to
why do
provide
you
for
change your
schools.
mind? It's going to be the same reason. Why
You're
do you
helping to
change your
provide
mind?
for the school system, man.
and not do it,
Yes.
because of that, because I
Because
know that,
it's
I
greed.
know
That's why I feel
that
too-
what's really, I'm like saying to myself, I'm not happy with what I have now. I want that $238 million. So I say no, I've never bought one. Now, I know at my job a few years ago, they had like the people came around and it was like a group pool. So just the group
Yeah.
pool, like
Yeah,
threw
that's-
$1 in there. But there's been times where, you know, it wasn't a strong temptation, but I said, oh, that might be nice. But I'm not going to do it. You got to be in it to win it.
Yeah, but we just got finished saying there's no scripture that says gambling itself is
No,
illegal.
No, but in those instances, I know, like, I'm looking at, wow, $238 million. That means I could retire, I could pay off this, and then in my mind, and I get to it at the last question, is I could do all these things for the Lord.
Yeah.
You
See,
know, am I doing all those things now for the Lord?
Gambling
You know?
isn't the issue. It's what it reveals about us.
Yes.
Usually it's greed, it's laziness, okay? I don't want to work. It's an unwillingness it's a discontentment with my state in life that God has put me.
Yes,
Right.
that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, it's a combination of all those things and probably a bunch of others. That's the problem, I think, is gambling, is what it actually reveals about us. Now,
It's coveting.
you know,
Huh?
you're at some
so
charitable
sensitive.
event and someone gives a raffle ticket and you're like, all right, yeah, I'll throw in $5.
Yeah.
It's, a couple
Well,
bucks
we'll
to
help
different.
a charity.
That's It'll help a charity.
But that's not gambling.
Yeah, it
That's
is
not
gambling.
gambling.
Yeah, it is.
No,
It depends.
It could
Because
be
you see
depending
people
on.
buy reams of raffle tickets because they're after that prize.
But isn't it still
Not
falling,
because I wanna help
you're
this
gonna
charity.
It's
ask.
the why you do it. It's the
Yeah,
problem with
yeah.
it.
Well, if you make the contribution without taking a ticket.
Yes,
Well, you could do
I've
that
done
too.
that, so,
Well, you can also take the ticket and then give the product to somebody else.
Right.
So your heart is revealed. I got, when I was in college, they did one of these World Series pool things. I don't follow baseball. I didn't know who was playing. Well, come on, you gotta. All right, here's whatever. Well, what numbers you want? I don't care. Just put them in there. I won. So I said, well, just give the money to the club. I don't want it. Because what you guys are saying is the real issue here. What does it reveal about your heart? Lotto ticket. The best quip on that one is, lotto is a tax on the mathematically challenged.
I mean, again, if you
You're
just, some
volunteering
big
for tax.
jackpot and you just want, and it's not a big deal and your motive, it's about your heart. There's
Because
nothing
like
wrong.
you
Yeah.
described, because next thing you know, you start thinking, I can do this. That's why one of the questions in number 7 there on the scenarios is, how would you answer the question? What would you do if you won the lottery?
That's,
You have to be in it to win it, and I ain't in it, so.
though I don't play the lottery, I guess depending on how much I won, I would like to say I would pay off my house, maybe retire,
Okay.
partially retire and serve the church.
But if I'm not
body,
in
but-
it, I still have the
I said,
dollars I
did
would
somebody
have
else
spent
buy a
for
lotto
it.
ticket for me?
Someone gave you a lot of tickets.
Yeah, because I'm not paying for a
I
lotto
would
ticket
be,
either.
I wrote that I would be afraid to win it.
Yeah.
I would be afraid because I don't know. I cannot say 100% I would like.
Well, that's why I
think about
said
in
I would
Proverbs
like to
30
know.
about the
I
man
would-
that prayed,
yeah.
about his prayer.
Yeah.
If I all of a sudden came up with $200 million, okay, would that tempt me to now put my trust
In money, yeah.
in money and no longer God? I want to say
That's what
that no way that wouldn't happen to me, but then I'm like, take heed lest you fall.
That's why I
So-
answered it, I would like to say, because
Yeah.
just that.
I can't guarantee it. So just what?
Yeah.
If God thought I could handle being a millionaire, He would make me tall, good-looking, athletic. I would have been a millionaire some other way.
I read something, as I'm looking up this
Really
stuff,
smart, invent something.
I read someone's take on this, and they were like, we gotta remember, if God wants to bless you in that way, He doesn't need you to buy a lottery ticket. He will just blow blessings into your life,
A lot
so,
of ways for God to provide,
yeah.
and we do that. Any settings in which gambling would be an acceptable activity for a Christian? We've already kind of covered that.
Yeah.
Okay, you did, Jason. Okay,
Yes.
I'm not, there's no greed in here, it's just, I'm having some fun with my friends.
Yeah,
Yes,
You know,
that's
There's no risk here, there's no real money involved for that, it's just we're enjoying each other's company.
I mean, but I wouldn't
and
even consider that gambling.
See if I'm better at this than you are, that's it.
Yeah, I wouldn't either, but, like throwing pennies in. and,
well because
you know.
as far as He's concerned, He gave that money in.
Yeah.
It was the
You're not
cost of
looking-
the entertainment.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not
That's why he's not
looking,
looking.
I want to get that guy's $5.
When you go to a casino,
I don't go to casino.
but what I'm saying is,
Just joking.
I go through the casino,
I
because
went
there's
through
a
the
buffet
casino.
in the middle. And then I'll commit gluttony.
I went
right?
I went to once.
Yes.
I went once with Melody. We both went in, and I think we were there like 45 minutes, and we lost $50. I'm like, this is not fun. I
Yeah.
don't make $50 an hour.
I had to go to Las Vegas for my work, and I stayed in one of those hotels, and like just to get my room, to get to
Yeah,
my
to go
room,
through
I
all
had to
this.
go through. And I didn't even do, even that, like if somebody gave me a thing, I would hope that if I won something, I would run. Like that would be it. I'd be like, this is mine, thank you, and that's that. And I wouldn't do it again. I'd like to say, but I don't know. I would feel funny going to a
that's
casino.
how I would be.
I would,
Because I know the risk.
yeah, I I wouldn't feel
You get lucky
comfortable
just to win
going to a
anything.
casino and betting money, just for me. I'm not saying it's wrong, again, it's your heart, but I think I would just feel like it would be a conscience issue for me.
You'd have to be very careful because you can see how easily greed pops
Yeah.
up. That was the reason for question 7.
Because I know the environment also, what they're trying to do, there.
They have
Very good on
employees
this
playing
one,
the
is we
machine
have to be
next to
careful
you.
because we may not know what
And
our
winning.
hearts really like
Winning.
until suddenly there it is and there's a temptation. What are the dangers of gambling?
Waste of time.
Waste
That
of
could
time,
waste your
waste of
time.
money.
That's a good one. Indebtedness and compounding sin.
Debt, yeah.
Well, think of the people that go to the ATM after they lose like $300
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
now it's, like you said, it's fueling them.
Yeah, now they're
Yeah.
trying to get the $300
Yeah.
back.
Exactly.
It's commonly said if you're going through Vegas, go to the pawn shops, you can get good deals.
Yeah.
All the people have pawned all sorts of stuff just
Just
to
to
get enough money to go home.
Yeah.
Wow,
That's good.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law lives there and it's quite stuff. How about vices commonly exist and expand where there's open gambling?
Drunkenness,
Usually, yeah,
drug abuse, prostitution.
prostitution's usually is all nearby.
You also end up with a dead zone around other businesses.
Sucks all the money out of the area.
And, yeah,
It
crime
does.
comes in.
That actually never helps an economy.
It just helps the people that are doing it.
It helps the people who own the casino.
Yeah.
That's it, because those things are set to win. And they don't have to be set for much. They could pay out 90%, they can pay out 95% of the time. They're skimming 5% off of every dollar that's coming in. They're doing well.
It doesn't even help the government. They'll claim that they get tax revenues, but all the costs, the negative social costs and expenses they have to do, keep the place somewhat safe, erases everything.
And a lot of these are tied to,
Organized crime.
Yeah.
these Indian tribes, and
And
then
it doesn't help the
it
tribe.
doesn't help them, they
No,
all
it doesn't
get
help them either.
checks, and then what is that doing? They're not working then,
Get drunk.
yeah, and that's
Destroys their lives.
Yeah.
That's why the lottery question at the end is this is a pretty common problem. It destroys people
yeah.
Yes,
because they don't know how to handle it.
yeah. A lot of
And they are
marriages are
destroyed.
destroyed, a lot of families are destroyed.
Just absolutely destroyed. All right, you've moved to a new area, found a church doctrinally sound, Christ-centered, generally biblically literate. However, including their church covenant is a commitment to abstain from the use of all alcohol except for medicinal purposes. Would that affect your consideration of the church? If so, why? If not, why not? And what questions would you ask the church leaders?
It's borderline legalism.
Yeah, I mean, I put the commitment is not an issue for me since I don't drink, but my issue is why they came to that position. They would need to answer biblically why they believe so. It's been stated that they're generally biblically literate, but are they?
Yeah.
But are they? If they haven't looked and they've come to that conclusion, how literate is a Christian? I would add that my experience, disposition, or one where belief is the Christian should never drink is not the only defect in their beliefs. If there are no other options and the other defects were not substantial, this would not be a deal breaker for me. Assuming we had no other option. But there seems to me like when they're very adamant about this issue, there's other issues that
We
they're
want to figure out what those are.
off on. It's poor hermeneutics often.
Yeah, I had a maybe, and it's the same thing. It's an indication of a poor hermeneutic among the leadership. Some of the questions: do they believe it is sinful to use alcohol? I would want to hear
Okay,
from their
excellent
mouths.
question.
Yeah.
What actions have they taken in the past for members who didn't abide by this covenant? If they disciplined someone, maybe then they may think any alcohol is actually sin. What do they perceive as a difference between intoxication and light consumption of alcohol, or cultural consumption, you could call that? What do you think about other churches who do not have such a restriction in their
Yeah,
covenants?
that's a good one.
So I'd want to hear what they say, the mindset, because you could have a big population of former alcoholics in a church, and they decided amongst themselves,
Yeah.
we need to protect ourselves, we're going to have this covenant. I don't have a problem with that. They're doing that to help and out of
Yeah.
love, all right? But if that's not the case, I wouldn't say no just because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to ask a lot more questions. You want to find out what is behind it, so
Yeah.
that's excellent. All right, you attend a social event that's sponsored by and mostly attended by church members. What would your reaction be if A, you find that beer and wine are being served, B, hard liquor is being served, C, you become aware that some of the church members are tipsy or worse?
Well, number A, I put not the wisest thing one can do in today's world, but biblically I have no problem with it.
I put no immediate action, but my awareness would be increased.
Yes, I'd be looking.
So I'd be watching. Who
I'd be
goes up there
watching
4
people like a
times?
hawk. Yeah,
You know, but at that point, just for that, no,
Okay.
not yet.
yeah.
How about B?
Big problem for me. I would be like, this is a big problem.
Yeah, I'd want to know why
What was the
they would
motivation?
feel it's necessary. You know, why are you having this here? Hard liquor, you know, as far as the host. And again, I would be watching that table to see who's going over there at all, and why are you here?
All right, it's escalated, now you're up to point C.
Okay, then you got to inform the hosts and confront them on what they're
What they're enabling, what's going
yeah
on.
they're facilitating
They're facilitating,
intoxication because now they're there's unwise behavior, there's sin already.
And- yeah. You're gonna have people around, they're gonna have people serving them, they're gonna have hostesses, and now you've brought reproach upon God's name.
Yeah.
That's the only way, and that's the biggest problem I have with this. And again, I would say, wouldn't have happened if it wasn't available.
And
I always hark back to that, but you know.
and we'd probably end up being the Ubers for the night.
Yes.
Yeah, you will. You will be the
Yeah.
But
default drivers.
But as far as any admonishments or anything like that, I wouldn't do that till after everyone's
Yes.
sobered up. I don't think it would accomplish
Well,
anything.
I like
at
what
that
you
point.
said about if you've gotten to see, you're going to have to talk to the hosts and say, it's time to pull this.
Yeah.
Your guests are getting
Yeah.
Yeah.
into the point of sin. That's excellent. B, you're probably going to talk to the hosts afterward, like, what exactly going on here and why?
Yeah.
All right. So again, it's why we keep saying we have to ask a lot more questions to get more information to find out what's actually going on, what are the motives, what's going on. Our goal, how do we help them walk in a closer walk with Christ? Not with standing up in the middle and it's like, I can't believe you got...
Yeah, no, you don't want to destroy.
I'm bringing you up on charges. You're all going to be disciplined from the church.
No, we just ask questions,
Yeah.
and we bring Scripture to light, and it's basically, if the Holy Spirit is working in them, they should come up to the right answers. We just have to help them.
We have to help them because they're coming from all sorts of different backgrounds. And even folks that attend this church, you can find all sorts of different things that they will do. I know there's probably some things I don't get invited to probably for these reasons. I find out about it later, and then it's okay, well, we need to talk. What is going on? Why did he get out of control? And try and help them become more wise in what they're doing and think through things, and it's challenging. You guys do your own study. You don't do this just because I said it. Do your own study. Look through the scriptures. What does it actually say? Is your goal to please men or please God? Try and challenge them. All right, 4. You call on a couple that started coming to church. When you arrive, they ask if you would like to join them in having a beer or a glass of wine. How will you respond?
See, I would just simply decline, and if they would like to partake, I would have no problem with it.
I'd have to feel it out. They started coming to church, so I've had some interaction with them before. If there are signs there of a problem with alcohol, I would refrain. If it seems something like this is a normal activity, or they're actually pulling out extra things because I'm coming to their house, I may have that one just not to offend them. Or if I go to the house and
Okay.
the place smells like stale beer, I'd probably say no. You know, I've walked into places, I'd probably say no. But if it seems like they invited me to a dinner and this is part of their formal dinner, I don't know if I may milk that one glass of wine for 2 hours.
Yeah, let me-
But I don't know if
yeah.
I'd turn it away.
I would
Actually,
add
it's probably
because,
easier for Jim and I because we're teetotalers.
yeah,
so
yeah. And if they really press the issue on it with
well, that'd
me,
be
Yeah.
different.
no, I mean, that would be an issue, that would be a problem right there.
Oh, yeah,
Like, if they start, why don't you wanna, but I would tell them
Okay, well, so
why.
they say, well, why don't you want to have something? What would you say?
I would tell them that just my history, that I've just decided, you know, that would be it. But I wouldn't bring that up
Up front.
front because I don't have an issue with it.
I was looking for two things,
Yeah.
and you got them both.
So-
Number one is be gracious.
Yeah,
It's a thank you. Well, that's very kind of you, the
Yeah.
offer. And then it's a gracious deferring to is,
yeah,
with Jim and I, it's he's like, you know, I don't drink.
yeah.
Can you have, you got a 7-Up or something, you know, or a glass of water. You just, because we're going to be gracious. And the reason I actually threw this question in here was some situations where I heard of people going in and they're offered, and the person was so offended they got offered a glass of wine.
No,
And they
No,
just
no, you
ripped
don't.
into them about, you know, and like, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, they just started coming, you don't even know they're Christians or not. What they actually did was a kindness.
Yeah.
And you don't see it? So trying to think through what the person is doing and respect that.
yeah.
And that's what you were doing with trying to think it's okay, you can feel it out. But you got a little more freedom here than,
Yeah.
see, me, I would have
Right
a
now,
problem.
anyway.
I can't get it. I'd have to be more careful of sarcasm. Like, you know, it'd be really great, except, you know, but I couldn't get it past my nose. I'd probably throw up, and it just would be a terrible scene. So I just not get into
They
that.
may just put it away. They don't even want, you know, they don't want you even breathing it.
Yeah, right.
So, you know, we want to be gracious people and kind of find out what's going on.
There's nothing wrong with sitting down. It could be just anything. That's just,
Okay, you're
But
not
just
in
being
danger of
gracious.
causing them to stumble.
yeah.
No.
Okay, that's why it was put that way. But that was the reason behind this question, because that has been responses of people just obnoxious. And I know they're actually doing something that in the rest of society, that's a very nice thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
That's being a gracious host or hostess. Okay. 5, a parent called you distraught. They found out their teenager's abusing drugs. How do you counsel them?
Call in.
Cole Ed.
This one I actually I had a hard time answering.
Yeah, this is
He's
not.
got kids.
You know, it was like,
I know.
I mean, you know, you come alongside them,
Jim.
you pray. Again, you go back to, does the kid believe I mean, does he claim to be a believer? Does he not? You know, and you know that, you know, you have to also, you know, you have to, you know, there may be a need to get help to this kid. It could be something, you know, an opioid addiction and whatnot, and you know,
It's
like
become
you
a huge
said,
problem.
Yeah.
that's serious business that we're not going to be able to take care of, you know, in and of ourselves. That often will involve a medical professional, because their health is actually.
But their
You know,
life can
we
be
have to
at stake.
just not, it's not just a visit and I'll pray for you, you know, this is something we're
No.
gonna have to be there for the parents and the child.
Yeah, I wanted more questions. How did they find out? What are the signs?
Okay.
They were looking through their child's putting laundry away and they found something, or are there behavioral signs already?
There's a lot of behavioral signs.
Then it's real serious.
Grades
Yeah.
drop. Grades suddenly start dropping.
Yeah,
What's going on?
yeah.
Of course, that could be a girl too.
Right.
Yeah.
That's attracted young men more than once.
They've become, there's isolating themselves from the rest of the family already. It's bad shape. They're at the point where they may need professional
Yeah.
Okay.
help then.
Now, that's part I was looking for too, is because you may not have the resources yourself, but
Right.
can I come alongside and then help them with that?
Yeah.
Can I help to get them in the direction they need to deal with their child? Okay, and this is becoming more serious. It's just, it's pretty rampant out there. It's getting a lot worse. And part of it is what's out there is a lot more powerful.
Powerful, yeah.
It doesn't take much, and
It's very,
these kids are dying.
very.
Yeah, that's,
more-
you know, that's why it's so important to confront them with the gospel, because some of this stuff, you know, you just, you know, it was just a tiny bit, but it just had this fentanyl stuff in there or
Well,
whatever.
Jason pointed out, there's people lacing the marijuana with
Yeah.
fentanyl. And the marijuana itself is, from when we were kids, the marijuana is like 4 to 5 times stronger than it was. This is, and then you get the opioids. Heroin is cheap.
Yeah, when
It
we were
doesn't take
kids,
much
like
to your-
that was like the taboo. Like, no, we can do anything we want except heroin. Now that stuff is like,
it's all over the place.
I mean, it's
That's because you used to
And-
drive by the heroin addicts in Brooklyn,
They were shooting
and they were like
nodding out.
Standing, almost, you wonder how they not fall.
But the stuff out there now, it's ridiculous.
And then there's all sorts of other concoctions. There's parties where they put all the pills
just all
that they found in the cabinet in a bowl and let's just see what happens. I mean, there's all sorts of nasty stuff out there. So you want to help, you want to make sure you get whatever help is necessary for them. And that could mean the teen is going to have to end up in a program.
Yep.
It could be some serious stuff and the parents are going to need some help. This is not easy.
They're gonna need counseling now. All the guilt that
All
they
the
would
stuff that
go
goes with
through
that.
and all the stuff that,
Okay, a couple is having financial difficulties. Talking with them, you find out that each regularly plays lottery. How will that information help you give them better financial advice?
Probably
Well-
just a symptom.
Well, right off the bat, they're not using the resources wisely.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
so you know that.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, and like Jim said, I wrote down the problem is actually something else. Covetousness, laziness, not just poor financial management.
Well, it could also could just be biblical ignorance. They don't understand what God actually says about your finances, what to do with it, how to earn money, that wealth is accrued a little by little, and this whole thing is a symptom of something else, so you want to help them with that. So that's why this question is put that way. How will that information help you to give them better financial advice? Now you know kind of an underlying problem here. But you're still going to do the same thing that you would with any couple.
Yeah.
Now, let's go back to some basics. What does Scripture actually say about finances? How are we going to handle all this? Have you ever put together a budget? Budget is a basic
Plan.
aspect of
Spending plan.
getting a handle of any finances. Am I being careful? Or
Boundaries.
how was that put in one of Dickens' things? If you basically, if you earn 20 pounds, you spend 19, you'll be happy. If you earn 20 pounds, you spend 21, your life will be misery.
That's the secret to financial security. Spend less than you earn.
So how do we help them get a hold of that? So if they're doing this, then there is an element here. They think that somehow they can get out of this quickly.
Yes.
And just do this, they'll win, and then our finances are dealt with. And actually, that's not true, and that's been proven over and over again.
And their
Because the
MO
hearts-
may have been, all along that instant gratification. Their instant gratification got them into that problem, and then they think they can instantly get out of it by the
Yeah.
lottery route.
Yeah.
Not true. So,
Unfortunately, sometimes that does happen, and then they see that, and then they're like, I'm going to be that person.
Yeah.
so 7, what would you do if you won the lottery? Probably a hard question to answer unless you did.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly right.
You would hope you do one thing, but if you actually had that sitting in your hands,
Peter's,
that could change very rapidly.
Especially with
Peter's 3
the
denials.
heart being desperately wicked.
Peter's, St. Peter's 3 denials after he said,
That's right.
Yeah.
It can get bad. You would hope you could think through it
Like
beforehand.
like Ed said, take heed lest you fall. Well,
Mine would be, well, who bought me a lottery ticket?
yeah.
And was so generous that they actually said it was for me and they're going to give it to me, because that would be amazing, because I didn't get it. It's been a long time. We used one for an illustration. One time I just took a lottery ticket, never been scratched on it, I just tore it up.
You didn't
We
look
went to
at
find
it?
the pieces.
The thing is, at this point, the way I was thinking about it, it wouldn't even matter who bought the ticket. I
You could still be in the same dilemma.
would still have the same dilemma.
You would, but
Yeah.
my point was is
Yeah.
like, well, first like, whoa, what kind of person is this? They actually want it, but said it was designated for you, so I'm still gonna give it to you.
Oh, yeah.
'Cause that's the only
not
way I
gonna
could
find
get
that
it.
too many.
Yeah, I think I can find that.
I've gotten, many years ago, I think my mother may have bought me a lottery ticket or something for something.
Did she give it to you, or did she play it for you?
No, she gave it to me.
Yeah, there was a time people were putting them like birthday cards
Yeah.
and like
Yeah,
$5, yeah.
Do that, so.
Yeah.
So, that was just a question to get you to think. If those weird circumstances, I think my goal would be is, how fast can I get this out of my hands
Yeah.
into the hands of multiple ministries where it can do some good?
Yeah, and you'd hope that would be your mindset, like,
And all anonymously.
yeah,
Because if they find out who it is, they're gonna think they can still get
Yeah.
more, and
Yeah.
there won't be any
that
more.
would be the other problem. You have lots of friends.
Get rid of it. Although I might, keep enough here to hire a secretary. Or an architect who could finish off the other stuff out there and don't have to do that.
Chuck emailed me today, actually.
Yeah, he was gonna ask you about,
Yeah, I answered him.
well, here's some more for you. That one's yours. So that was just some studies I did on this years and years ago. It started becoming a problem. It's like, all right, well, what does Scripture say? When I first came here, that was in the Constitution. I didn't think twice about it. It was like, shit, it was like, I'm right. But boy, it became a problem as time went on.
Yeah,
Assumed something that wasn't true.
if I saw that in, and that would be some red flags for like, what else are they thinking then?
Well, it turned out there was a bunch of stuff, but
So
I
in
never thought about it.
So in Proverbs 31, the king's mother is condoning him to get the poor and the people dying drunk. Is basically what she's saying.
Let's quote.
Give me neither poverty nor riches.
Yeah.
No, at the end of Proverbs 31 is give drink to who? To those who have
Or
no.
perishing.
Those who are perishing. To alleviate their pain. Actually, you can go to that. Why would they offer
Jesus.
Jesus gall?
Yeah, exactly.
It was a medicine that's supposed to be trying to remove some of the pain as he was dying. We actually do that a lot in the medical field. If someone's dying, they're in a lot of pain, we'll give them morphine or something, try to alleviate some of that. But there are some problems with that too. Are they alleviating the pain? For
Killing them.
Well, I wonder whose pain they're trying to alleviate.
Yeah. That's
Yeah, good point.
Keep them,
Is the family?
the nurses and the family don't have to.
They don't have to see the suffering. You know, if it's a non-Christian, I'm even more concerned. It's like your suffering's just going to begin.
Yeah. And you're-
So I'm not quite sure who's being alleviated. Certainly, if you're in great agony and pain, something to help with that is nice. Having surgery several times, I was glad for some things that we could knock that pain down enough to be able to sleep. But the goal would be to get off it as fast as possible.
I guess some of the confusion is, she says, let him drink and forget his poverty. So we were talking before about how you would think now that you would be wanting to help people, not have them drink away their worries
Mhm.
being poor. So it's kind of,
Well, because if
Kind
you're
of
getting to them,
contradiction.
you're going to have to take responsibility for them. That's going to be part of it. So remember, the Proverbs are proverbial statements. They're general truths. And this is the contrast to, this actually passage here is the contrast between the wisdom needed by a king and those who would be the opposite. So that's a big part of that particular passage. It's a juxtaposition that highlights the necessity for the king not to be doing this. So that's a good question, Jason. Yeah, a lot of stuff here. So we're not here next Thursday, and the week after that is entertainment. So, entertainment. Yeah, we're all going to.
We're gonna play.
We're gonna play.
We're gonna play
We're gonna play poker. We're gonna film it too.
Of course, huh?
Only pennies though.
Nickels is for cheapskates, dude. We're up in the ante, the corners.
Only pennies and no distilled.
Oh, you just want to
No
take money
distilled
from
beverages.
me. Card shark. What have you been doing with your time?
I make my money, buddy.
Plays with the kids. That's what, when he gets an opportunity. So, I hope this was helpful. You know, but a lot of this keeps coming down to the same things that we've seen all along. We got to ask more questions, find out what's going on with people. What are they thinking? What's their motivations? How can we help them walk with Christ? That's what we're after. Wherever the sin pops up, all that's doing is revealing something of the heart, and then we want to help them with the real heart issues. And that's always what we have to be doing. We never want to get into the legalism, I'm holier than you. We're here to help people and help them get out of the problems that they've got. You know, just like people have helped us with our immaturity or stupidity that we have when we're young.
Yep.
So we want to help and be those who speak the truth in love. But we speak the truth. Yeah. Father, it is late. Father, thank you for the discussion tonight and just the opportunity to really dig into your word and think through some of these subjects. Some of these are very concerning because there is becoming an increasing problem with drugs in this nation. Gambling has been a problem in the state for a long time, and it seems like it gets worse. But Father, when people do not understand the truth of your word and look for that for guidelines, even for the most practical things of life, how to use our finances, then we know problems are going to arise. The hearts of people are going to pursue their selfishness. Thank you that by the Holy Spirit you change us and give us a whole different motivation for life, a different way to live, and give us wisdom as we help others to walk with Christ also. In Jesus' name, amen.